Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we all doing? What's up? It is day 34 of the Karen Reed murder trial. We're going to be doing a review of that. But first, we got a couple of things to do. The number one main priority, top thing to do is to give you your intro song. So sit back and enjoy one of the last times, probably one more time after that, you'll be able to hear this little old song that we like to call the Justice Blues.
Down in the city where the shadows grow so tall, there's a woman named Karen caught up in it all. They say she did wrong, but the truth's hard to find, 'cause the law's got dirty fingers and justice is blind. Whoa, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Whoa, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. They twisted her story, turned the facts all around, made her out to be guilty on shaky ground. Evidence vanished and the lies start to flow, but the deeper you dig, the darker it grows. Oh, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Oh, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. She cries out for fairness, for a glimpse of the truth, but the powers that be, they ain't got no proof. The badges and the ties all woven with deceit, in this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat. Oh, the courtroom whispers and the gavel strikes down, but the air's filled with tension neath that judge's frown. Karen stands there strong with fire in her eyes, for she knows deep inside the real crime's in disguise. Whoa, justice blues in the pale moonlight, when the one sworn to serve you don't do what's right. Whoa, justice blues, it's a cold hard fight in the dark of the night where corruption takes flight. One day the truth will rise like the sun in the sky, and the lies will crumble, no more alibis. But until that day comes, she sings a mournful tune of the justice blues neath the pale haunted moon. Cries out for fairness, for a glimpse of the truth, but the powers that be, they ain't got no proof. The badges and the ties all woven with deceit, in this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat. In this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat. In this twisted tale, it's the innocent they cheat.
All right, we are back. It's one of the last two times you're going to be hearing that song, I think. I think we're going to have our verdict on Monday, one way or the other. Verdict or hung jury, I think tomorrow. Monday may be the day. But welcome, people. Welcome, chatters, members, first-timers, trolls of all shapes and sizes. Glad to have you here. What we're going to do today is we are going to do two things. We're going to review what happened in court yesterday. I haven't seen it. I've just heard about it, but I have the 2 times the jury was brought in, other than the beginning. And so we'll play those. And then I want to break down, and I'm sorry to do this to you again. We had Lally's closing arguments yesterday. We're going to do Lally's opening statements today. But see, I want to do this because he made some specific comments throughout his opening statements. Let's see what he proved, what he didn't prove, and what was just backward ass wrong. That's what we're going to be doing. And to help me do that, we have, as some of you know. All right. Hey, my phone is possessed and is. But only an appealable issue if there's a. And it took my phone decided I wanted to start Law and Lumber, and I can't keep my phone on mute because I have a guy washing my car downstairs, and he's going to call at some point in a couple of hours and tell me to come and get it. But anyway, I like to have the voice of lay people, not just lawyers, because we don't think quite the same as other people do. We tend to think about things differently, to analyze things differently, and we either have lost or tend not to think of situations like normal people. So I like to have a lay person on here to give me their opinion. And today's lay person, we haven't had this entire trial, but our lay person today is a good old super awesome friend of the channel, and it's great to see her back again. It is Flux.
What's up, Jeff? How's everybody doing? What's up, chat? How's everybody? How are you doing, Jeff?
Not bad.
Good.
Wait, you've changed your surroundings.
I have.
When did that happen?
It actually happened like a week and a half ago, but after everything, I never ended up maybe it was like 2 weeks ago. But I ended up moving my computer into Mrs. Flux's computer room because we play so many games together that it's difficult when we're trying to communicate. Like one of the games we play is Project Zomboid, and we tactically move and tactically clear zombies. So it's difficult to communicate when we're in different rooms. So we're like, screw it. Let's just, we'll put the computers in the same room, and that way we can just talk to each other. And haven't got it quite figured out just yet, but yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good. I hadn't noticed, but now I do. I see it now.
Oh yeah. So I'll get it all made better and all that stuff. So yeah.
All righty. Well, shoot, where to start? First, I don't know what we should do for. I'm trying to think of what we should do for a like and subscribe poll. I mean, everybody thinks he should be not guilty. We don't know. I mean, our choices for the jury are guilty, not guilty, hung jury. So it's kind of limited. I think we should. What? I
like how everybody is saying it's not that she's not guilty, she's factually innocent.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like, subscribe, vote. Let's do this. Will the jury will this end in a hung jury? That's what we need to decide.
Yes.
Will this case end in a hung jury?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yeah, that's easy. That's a lazy poll, but what the hell? Who cares? All right, there we go.
Yes or double yes?
Yeah, I don't know, because sometimes it's that one holdout, and we have no idea what the situation. We'll talk about it as we go along.
Sounds great.
Let's see, what do we got going on here right now? We got 106 people here. It's a casual, chill, relaxing Friday night, it sounds like. I'm starting a bit late. People are probably off doing other things. But hey, here we are. We've got 106 people, 65 likes, and a $5 super chat from Gluvaro. You need to call the Ghostbusters. Now, it's just a voice. I should have the voice. I think I have the voice activation turned off on my phone, but apparently sometimes I don't. And I also discovered that with my, I have like a robot vacuum cleaner that's like the shit.
Nice.
I mean, you control it with an app on your phone, and it not only like vacuums up the floor, but it also mops the floor, and then it goes back to its station and cleans itself and empties the bin and things.
Oh, you bougie.
Yeah, it was on sale at Costco. But I found out it's activated by like hello. And so every time I'm watching a TV show that says hello, is I'm here, how can I help you? And so it annoys me, so I had to turn that off.
Yeah, that's kind of terrifying too.
Yeah. Well, I used to like hear it randomly, and I'm like, what is it? What is this? I can't hear it. I didn't say anything. But then I just figured out it was responding to hello on the TV. Jonathan Irwin bets on which juror is the holdout. Well, we'll never really know who the holdout juror was unless someone specifically says that person is the problem or is the holdout. Maybe they're not the problem. Maybe they're the only sane one in the group. We just don't know.
In your experience in a situation like this, do you think, in your experience, is it typically one person or is it typically maybe like a split?
Ordinarily, I mean, again, this is just totally anecdotal and pulled out of my ass. But generally speaking, I would say, if it's one person and they aren't a completely just entrenched and dug in, and I'm not going to move from this position, they would probably tend to fold with the other 11.
Okay.
But if they start to get a group of two gives you a little more power than one to hold out. So I think the more people that are on the hold, and other people, you can go the other way. They can go, all right, I'm just done, or I see the light. If we watch the classic movie 12 Angry Men, the original, not the one with Ted Danson, you get the one guy that's the holdout because he wants to look at things a little more closely. And then it eventually ends up he was the smart one, he was the sane one, and justice prevailed rather than what really happens. And they go, dude, he's all right, I want to go home. It's raining, it's dark, I haven't seen my family, I need a drink. I thought they would, I was concerned. I thought they would come back today.
Yeah, to be fair, we all thought they were going to come back Wednesday.
Yeah,
or Tuesday.
I had hoped they'd come out, and I think but I was worried they would come out because it was Friday night for me, and I had plans, and I wanted to go out and meet friends and do things and enjoy myself rather than sit here and stare at a damn fan for hours. So I took the risk.
You didn't want to sit and just watch Celine Dion?
Yeah, I took the risk, and I was a bit worried when I heard the jury was coming back because I was hanging out with friends, having cigars and stuff.
I got worried when they were like, no, we want to go till 4:15 tonight. I was like, ooh, are they going to come back? Ooh.
That's the thing. That's what tells me, well, again, we'll talk about it later, but that's what tells me they're probably going to wrap this up in the morning on Monday. It sounds like they just had a few more things they needed to iron out, and then they'll do the paperwork on Monday. Because 4:15 is a weirdly specific number.
Yeah. Well, see, and we know because of the jury question the other day, like one of them is worried about bus routes and bus schedules. So it's like maybe I think somebody in Baker's chat said that there was like a bus at 4:30. So they're like, we can work a little late today.
Island just said, is the bus schedule, bus leaves at 4:30 and the next one's at 5. Okay, I didn't know that. D what? Celine Dion, WTF? Yeah, no, not Ceiling. That's what we've named. You know that, D what? That's what we've named the Ceiling fan. We've named it Celine Dion. All right, let's look at the day in history here. What went down? What happened? And we've got ourselves situated here, where every day the same thing happens. every day. The judge comes in, says exactly the same thing. Have you stayed away from this? Have you heard anything? Have you kept your nose clean? Are you doing your job as jurors? And of course, they always say, yes, we've never done any outside research. We've never looked at anything. And you really have to believe them unless there's evidence to the contrary. And I think juries tend to do a good job because they don't want to waste their time. They don't want their 10 weeks to go up in flames because enough people effed around with evidence, I think.
That's fair. I think, maybe that's fair. I don't know.
Where are we here? here we are. So she gave her 3 questions. What is your name? What is your quest? What is your favorite color, etc. She gave her 3 questions, and then she sent them off to deliberate, where they deliberated for a few hours, little under 2 hours, 3 hours. They deliberated, and then apparently they came back here to ask something or do something. I think this is I don't know which. What I did is I scrolled through like this until I saw something that wasn't sealing Dion. So this is probably the hung jury issue. Let's find out, and then we'll get our lay flux's opinion.
Thank you. You see the court session.
We're back on the record on 22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Okay. All right.
She's already like,
Counsel,
okay.
you're aware of
Mark off Judge Sai.
Dear Judge Canoni, I am writing to inform you on behalf of the jury that despite our exhaustive review of the evidence and our diligent consideration of all disputed evidence, we have been unable to reach a unanimous verdict signed by the foreperson. So I want to hear from counsel your view on whether there has been.
And again, the problem with it's not a problem for the court. It's the way it's supposed to be. She doesn't want to know what the numbers are. She specifically said that at the beginning of jury instructions. If you can't reach a decision, I don't want to know how many this way, how many that way. So it's not
normal?
a problem for them. Yeah. You don't want to know if it's 10-1 or 6-6.
Okay.
But it's a problem for us because we don't know.
And we want to know.
Damn it. I want to know, is this one holdout that can be bullied or one holdout that's going to remain strong, or what? I want the details. Or is it an even split? Is it 8-4?
Right?
Just because I'm curious. I want answers, but we don't get answers. Oh, great. I just got a government notification that the rain is about to start.
Oh. Ooh.
We've got it. It's the summer monsoon season here in Korea, and it's
yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we're supposed to get some pretty good storms here too tonight and tomorrow.
We're supposed to get in the next 36 hours. We're supposed to get up to 7 inches of rain.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
Wow,
that's real happy with that. And meanwhile, there's a guy washing my car downstairs. So,
nice.
But more importantly, he's cleaning the interior. That's his main purpose. All right. So anyway, we don't know what this means. They just said they cannot reach a unanimous verdict. Do you have any particular feelings on what's going on in the jury room, layperson?
I mean, my gut tells me there's one person that just says, screw you guys, screw the evidence, she's guilty. That's because as a layperson, and I'm a little bit more so than the layperson because I did get my degree in criminal justice. So I'm thinking from like an evidentiary, like from the evidence perspective, like, no, there's so much reasonable doubt. Like any person, I showed the picture of, John O'Keefe's arm to Mrs. Flux. I was like, Mrs. Flux, she only knows like bits and pieces from like what I've said, but she's never like seen anything or anything like that. And I just pulled up a picture and I was like, what is that? And she goes, that's like a dog bite or a cat, like dog or cat, like looks like a dog. And I'm like,
that'd be a big effing cat.
Right?
Like a tiger bite.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, how? There is so much. I don't understand. I think there has to be one person saying, screw you guys. Because it doesn't make sense to me. None of this makes sense to me. I don't understand. This is all dumb.
There you have it, right from the lips of a normal person, not a lawyer. Not a lawyer person. And Sonia or Chris is gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. If you were one of the lucky people that got one of the 5 Legal Vices memberships 10 minutes ago, make sure you give Sonia or Chris a super Cajun thank you. What? Also, he wants to know, what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow? Well, of course, you have to clarify whether that's an African or European swallow, but thank you for the $2. Feel free to send another super chat to clarify your question. Just jokes. Blue Varo says, Jeff, any news on that big explosion from the battery fire? No, it's just kind of the news moves on. Somebody's going to be at fault, and then that's it. So yeah. And for those of you that don't know, there was a big lithium battery factory that sort of exploded and caught on fire here last week. I guess earlier this week. You're here in Korea. No big news. Nothing that I've seen anyway.
I never got past the red Solo cups in this case.
Yeah.
I never could get past that. I'm like, And
Jonathan Irwin in chat has just outed himself as someone who has clearly been in Korea in the military. Jonathan Irwin says, "Don't fall into turtle traps. That shit hurts 100%."
Oh yeah, the hat in his profile picture. It looks like it's some type of veteran hat. It looks like some type of service and career. I can't tell, but nice.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, like there's very few of them left in the country, but there used to be open gutters on the sides of the street. They're about body width. They're about body width and about 2.5 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
And the military.
Nice.
The military would call them turtle traps. It's not. It was a thing. It really was. You would get the drunk soldiers that would try to be walking from, say, Itaewon back to the base at Yongsan or whatever.
They had
whatever
place post too.
Oh, they did. Oh, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, because
Or in Dongducheon, they'd be walking through the Ville, they call it, and the drunken soldiers would fall into these gutters. They would stagger into the gutters, and then they're just kind of wedged in there. They're kind of wedged in this 2.5 foot deep gutter, wedged between the road and whatever embankment it's next to, and they just called them turtle traps or turtle.
They were so easy to fall into if you weren't paying attention. I mean, you didn't even have to be drunk to fall into those things.
Sadly, we know the one I've mentioned a few times that my best friend of 16 years died of a heart attack 4 years ago on June 6th. But his best friend, one of his other best friends, who was the Cuban cigar importer for Korea, because Cuba designates one person in every country to handle all of the imports of cigars. He was the guy that was designated. He'd been in Korea longer than me, which is insane.
Yeah.
But he died in one of the turtle traps. He was riding his motorcycle at a pretty decent rate of speed. He hit a speed bump, and that sent him into one of the turtle traps, and he was done like that. It was ugly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the turtle trap thing. Sorry to get distracted. Sonia Chris with the $5. To quote my DM, the Monty Python has been recited. Glory to the Python. Pretty much.
Do you think Bev weighs as much as a duck?
Probably.
Due and thorough deliberation. So let's start with the Commonwealth.
My answer would be no, Your Honor. This simply hasn't been sufficient time yet.
And what
the prosecutor does not want a hung jury? Why would that be? Why would the prosecutor not want a hung jury? I would say most likely because he thinks there's one not guilty hanging out. And he wants it to go to a verdict. Plus, if there's a hung jury,
he has to
make the decision. Yeah, his office has to make the decision whether or not to go through all of this again, knowing what they know now.
Especially with the backlash about they can't call Proctor again. They cannot do that. He has been nope. Good luck.
He doesn't want it. And I'm going to guess that the defense side doesn't want it. They want a hung jury. They're gonna. I know they're gonna argue that they've had enough time. Because a hung jury is a win at this point.
See, and this is what I don't like, is that it's subjective. It's like, how long is too long? How short is too short?
Yeah.
Like, because when it comes to juries and like decisions, I mean, OJ was what, 3-4 hours.
About 2.5.
Rittenhouse was like
21, 24,
Yeah.
27, somewhere around there, somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah, he was up there. It's like time and like how long it takes. I don't know. I wish there was like a set time where it's like if they hit this many hours, because then it does like, I don't know. I feel like
I think if it's a normal 2 or 3 day trial and then you're in the 8th day of jury deliberations, okay, that's a bit much. But if you're in a 10-week trial and you're in day 3, that's not too much. That's not too excessive. You're in day 4. I think like the end of day 4, you start to ask questions. Like a full day 4.
Melly was like what, 2 or 3 days, and the judge called it hung.
I think it was like the 2nd day, if I remember correctly, which I thought was way quick.
I was like, and it was like the first time.
Yeah.
They had come out and they're like, yeah, we can't reach it. He's like, okay, sorry, bye.
Yeah, that was the YNW Melly trial, and that's kind of what it was. That's why I was really surprised. Normally, the judge will at least say go back and try it. At least once they'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's hear more of Lally's arguments.
Does the defense say?
We believe that there has been sufficient.
All right, so I'll hear from both of you in more detail. Mr. Lally, I will hear you.
Your Honor, the jury received this case just earlier this week. They've had slightly shortened days, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that they haven't conducted their due diligence in regard to their deliberative process, but I would submit that it is far, far, far too early in their deliberative process to even consider giving them any kind of Tui Rodriguez instruction or anything close to that. Furthermore, what the note doesn't really...
Wait, not anything close to that? Wait, what?
In their deliberative process to even consider giving them any kind of Tui Rodriguez instruction or anything close to that. Furthermore, what the note doesn't really indicate affirmatively that they can't come to a conclusion. It just says that they haven't come to a conclusion through their deliberative process at this time. So they're not even asking for one, is what I would say.
All right, thank you. Ms. Giannetti, I'll hear you.
I would disagree with Mr. Lally's characterization of the note. The word exhaustive is the word I think that's operative here. They're communicating to the court that they've exhausted all manner of compromise, all manner of persuasion, and they're at an impasse. This is a case where the jury has the legal instructions. They've only really asked one question, which was to try to get a report that they were not allowed to get. And I think the message has been received that the evidence is closed. They won't get anything more. They've been working essentially nonstop over the last 3-4 days. We're approaching a weekend. They didn't come back with this at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. They're at 12 o'clock and they have nowhere to turn. So our position is the jury should be read the Tui Rodriguez model instruction and go from there.
Okay. All right. So you all know that it is within my discretion. I decide. So a case that has been, it's a long case. This is our 4th day of deliberations, but Tuesday was a short afternoon, maybe 2.5 hours. Wednesday, they left early because of an appointment. Yesterday was also shortened a little bit, and this note arrived with less than 3 hours of deliberations today. So the length of the trial, the length of the deliberations, I know the case we heard from 74 witnesses. There are 657 exhibits, very complex issues in this case. I'm not prepared to find that there have been due and thorough deliberations at this point. So I am going to send them back out. We'll bring them in and we'll do that now.
When she puts it that way, I guess it makes a little more sense. I didn't listen to that part the first time.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. See, that's what I was thinking. That's why I said 4 full days of deliberations is kind of where I would start to ask questions. But the first day was half day. Then they finished early the one day, and then and they're looking at all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe they can come together and after being locked in a room for a few more hours together. All right, let's for the jury to come in.
Despite our receipt of your note. Right. So, jurors, I'm in receipt of your note. I am writing to inform you on behalf of the jury that despite our exhaustive review of the evidence and our diligent consideration of all disputed evidence, we have been unable to reach a unanimous verdict signed by your foreperson. We all know how hard you've been working. Lunch will be arriving shortly. When it comes, I'd ask you to clear your heads, have lunch, and begin your deliberations again. So, or continue your deliberations.
Don't say begin again.
All right. So I'm sending you back out.
All right.
I want to know what they're having for lunch.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of a cold when you have lunch and I'm sending you back out.
Out with ya.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you think about you said it makes a little more sense now that you paid attention to what the judge was saying.
Yeah.
But any other comments?
I mean, again, I don't know how anybody looks at that arm and does not see dog bites. I do not understand that. I do not see that. From my perspective, the prosecution has their entire case hanging on the fact that she allegedly said, I did it. That's their whole entire case. And
that can be big to some people, though, that go, she said she did it. I don't care what else they say.
But here's the, that was never, it was never introduced in police reports. It was only introduced, she said, well, really, why wasn't this ever brought up before? This is kind of big stuff. You should probably, it doesn't make sense to me. And so I don't understand how, from reasonable doubt, a reasonable person would see that and be like, that makes zero sense. Zero injuries from the neck down. That makes zero sense. Nope. Forward.
And science.
And forward.
Yeah. I studied forward. That's still my favorite part of the trial.
God bless him.
What is kinematics? It's the study of forward.
That's
why I loved it in his closing arguments when Jackson called Trooper Paul Boston's, what do you say,
best and brightest.
I thought that was pretty funny.
It was good. It was a good one.
Aussie Wombat says, what happens with the Fed case, charges and indictments of a hung jury? They're totally separate. They're totally separate deals. It'll continue. If she's convicted, it's going to continue.
I can't believe.
Yeah, go ahead.
This case went forward with the active investigation into it. That blows my mind.
Yeah, I am surprised by that because you'd probably want to know if all of the prosecutors and police officers are going to hell and getting indicted.
I'm 99% certain both sides asked for a stay until the investigation, and the judge was like, nah.
No. Yeah, the judge's like, nope, we waited 2 years. We're going ahead. Everybody's they both wanted, which was kind of shocking. I remember mentioning that it's very unusual if both parties want an extension. Because if one side does and the other side doesn't, you've got to balance it out and weigh it and go, what's the best way forward for the defendant? But if the defense asks for it and the prosecutor says, yeah, we want some extra time, it's weird that a judge wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't understand that.
Self-indulgence testimony is reasonable to irrelevant to this and irrelevant to the state. Yeah. But what she was talking about, these instructions, the Rodriguez instructions. Let's talk about the Rodriguez instructions, shall we? I don't know if any of the other streamers did this, probably because they're smart. But got an itchy back here. The Rodriguez instructions. I hesitate to mention their full name because I'm a child. They're the Tui Rodriguez instructions, and I just think Hakta Rodriguez. It's the Hakta Rodriguez instructions.
That's
So
where my brain went.
Yeah, these are the Tui Rodriguez instructions, is what they're called. TUEY Rodriguez instructions, and as you can see here, it's this is the model instructions, of course, in the 2009 edition. When jurors cannot agree, this is a special set of instructions that the court reads to the jury. And before we do that, D. Watt has just dropped 5 Legal Vices memberships. So if you're one of the lucky folks here that gets that, and who are you? It is 2 doors down, Adriana B. Custom Furniture and Home Door, Joanne, Wendy RB. This is what I look at here. This is what's on the right side of my screen, so I can see all this. Was a gifted membership, D. Watt, Project Metal Music. Hey, you got one, and Wendy RB and Joanne. There we go. Thank you so very, very much. Now I got to find which one. There we go. There's the instructions back. Thank you very, very much, D. Watt and Blue Var with the $5. Then the whole line, I hit him, reminded me of my cousin Vinny, and the line, I did that. Mm-hmm. Right. Maybe they all need to go watch My Cousin Vinny and 12 Angry Men. Mm-hmm. Right, here we go. This is what would be read, a model of what would be read to jurors when they go, we're deadlocked. And this is what Lally was saying. We're not even close. We're not anywhere close to giving these instructions. When jurors cannot agree, when good girls go bad on Fox. Our Constitution and laws provide that in a criminal case, the principal way for deciding questions of fact is the verdict of a jury. In most cases, and perhaps strictly speaking in all cases, absolute certainty cannot be obtained or expected. The verdict to which each juror agrees must, of course, be his or her own verdict, the result of his or her own convictions, and not merely an acquiescence in the conclusion of the other jurors. Still, in order to bring 6 minds, or 12, I guess, in this case, to a unanimous result, you must examine the issues you have to decide with candor and with a proper regard and respect for each other's opinions. You should consider that it is desirable that the case be decided. You should consider that you have been selected in the same manner and from the same source as any future jury would be. There is no reason to suppose that this case will ever be submitted to 12 persons who are more intelligent, more impartial, or more competent to decide it than you are, or that more or clearer evidence will be produced on one side or the other. With all this in mind, it is your duty to decide this case, if you can do so conscientiously. In order to make a decision more attainable, the law always imposes the burden of proof on one side or the other. In this criminal case, the burden of proof is on the Commonwealth to establish every part of it, every essential element beyond a reasonable doubt. If you are left in doubt as to any essential element, the defendant is entitled to the benefit of that doubt and must be acquitted. See, words like this are what scares Lally.
Yep. He's like, no, we can't. Nope.
Yeah,
but that was more enthusiastic than he would be.
Yeah, he's saying we're nowhere close to telling them that if you're left in doubt as to any essential element, the defendant is entitled to the benefit of the doubt and must be acquitted. Lally doesn't want this.
He wants everything but that.
Right. In conferring together, you want to give proper respect to each other's opinions and listen with an open mind to each other's arguments. Where there is disagreement, those jurors who are for acquittal should consider whether a doubt in their minds is a reasonable one. If it makes no impression on the minds of other jurors who are equally honest, equally intelligent, and who have heard the same evidence with the same attention, with an equal desire to arrive at the truth, and who have taken the same oath as jurors. On the other hand, those jurors who are for conviction ought to seriously ask themselves whether they may not reasonably doubt the correctness of their judgment, if it is not shared by other members of the jury. They should ask themselves whether they should distrust the weight or adequacy of the evidence if it has failed to convince the minds of their fellow jurors. That's an interesting instruction. Ask yourself whether they should distrust their interpretation of the evidence, considering how nobody else agrees with them.
That's fair. That is very fair. But I did have a question. It does say, talking about the jury and when what if they're not of equal intelligence?
Well, they're probably not. That's the problem.
So it's like, they're not being smart. They're kind of unequally intelligent here, which is why we have this problem.
Yeah. I would ask you now to return to your deliberations with these thoughts in mind. Ooh, there's alternate instructions. Dun, dun, dun. A second model charge recommended by the American Bar Association. It's appropriate for the judge to give such an jury as deadlock, but because I like this. We have to read this. It is appropriate for the judge to give such a charge when the jury is deadlocked, but because it has a certain sting to it, it should not be given prematurely. And digression from the recommended language is discouraged. The alternate instructions are short. We'll read those too. Is this the stingy one? The verdict must represent the considered judgment of each juror. Don't be a dimwit and pay attention. No, let's see. In order to return a verdict, it is necessary that each juror agree to that verdict. Your verdict must therefore be unanimous. It is your duty as jurors to consult with one another and to deliberate with a view to reaching an agreement, if you can do so without violating your individual judgment and conscience. Each of you must decide the case for yourself, but you should do so only after considering the evidence impartially with your fellow jurors. In the course of your deliberations, do not hesitate to re-examine your own views and change your opinion if you become convinced that it is erroneous. But do not surrender your honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. You are not partisans for one side or the other. You are judges, the judges of fact. Your sole interest is to ascertain the truth from the evidence in this case. I would ask you to now to return to your deliberations with these thoughts in mind. Which one do you like better?
I think the first one's more stingy.
I think it's more stingy, but it's also more explanatory.
Yeah.
It tells them their jobs as jurors a little better. It lays out what to do.
I think either of them are just devastating to Lally's case, but I mean, I think Lally's case is devastating to Lally's case. So,
yeah, which is why I said I'm not surprised that he said we're nowhere near giving them this instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Restriction on sending a jury out more than twice. If a jury, after due and thorough deliberation, returns to court without having agreed on a verdict, the court may state anew the evidence or any part thereof, explain to them anew the law applicable to the case, and send them out for further deliberation. But if they return a second time without having reached a verdict, they shall not be sent out again without their own consent, unless they ask from the court for some further explanation of the law. Oh, that's interesting.
So they could just be like, no, we're not deliberating anymore. We can't reach a verdict.
Yeah, so if they come back again, I think that's it.
Wow.
So you get to send them out twice. Yeah, it's like 3 strikes and you're out. They come back the third time. You can send them out twice. She can give a little more specifics the second time, and then you're done. But the pre-Rodriguez instruction charge,
as opposed to the Huck to a Rodriguez charge.
Oh no. When the jury prematurely suggests that it may be at an impasse, but the judge concludes that the jury is not yet deadlocked and that the full Rodriguez charge is not yet called for, the appeals court recommends that the judge instruct the jury using the ABA recommended language in the first 2 paragraphs of the alternate instruction. It seems reasonable to us that the jury's perception and be knowledge in some fashion. In so doing, the judge must exercise caution that the jury not be encouraged to give up the efforts to reach unanimity, while at the same time ensuring that jurors understand that conscientious disagreement is nevertheless acceptable. The ABA's language is plainly intended to serve the useful function of communicating to jurors the nature of their obligations in circumstances short of the true deadlocks that require the use of the Rodriguez charge. And there should be and there should be resort to it at appropriate times. Regardless of which instruction is utilized, after the jury has twice engaged in due and thorough deliberation, the judge may not send them out again without their consent. To avoid subsequent problems with Section 34, it is suggested that the judge state clearly for the record whenever the judge determines that a potential impasse has not occurred after due and thorough deliberation. Ooh, interesting. I like that. That's a good instruction, I think.
Mhm.
What do you want, Strobs?
I think.
What do you think?
I don't know. I think as soon as they get that instruction, they're gonna take maybe, I don't know, another hour and then they're gonna come back deadlocked. I don't know, man. I think as a layperson, there is far too much reasonable doubt. It looks like he got beat up, and wonderful theory of the case, like Occam's razor. He went to a party. Things got out of hand. He fell, hit his head. They freaked. Reasonable doubt. That is a reasonable theory, and one that was not explored even a little bit.
The only, I guess, I don't know. I find it hard to look through the eyes of someone who doesn't think there's reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
But I'm so the only thing I can think of is she said I hit him, and the evidence showed he never went in the house.
That's not what the evidence showed.
Well, the prosecutor, that was what they said.
That was their interpretation, but the same exact interpretation from somebody else says he did go in the house. And it's like, you can't trust the data like that because it is off by a few meters here and there. And it's like, the elevation thing is what got me. The going up flights of stairs and the going down flights of stairs. I'm like, the motherfucker was in the house. Like, how is that not reasonable doubt?
I'm with you. I'm just trying to think of what someone could be thinking holding out, you know.
Oh, I have no idea how somebody can look at this case and think zero reasonable doubt. Like, from a reasonable perspective, like somebody just from every possibility, because there wasn't a proper investigation. Protocol wasn't looked at, and Proctor said it himself. By the end of the night, he already had his theory, and he made it fit. Like, that is not how you go to an investigation, even a little bit. That is just so messed up in my brain.
Well, they went back and they actually, I mean, good for them. They actually asked for more time to deliberate.
Yeah, I liked that. I was like, ooh, what are they doing?
So, I mean, that tells me that they have not, communication hasn't broken down. They're still talking to each other civilly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's still room for things to be discussed.
Yeah.
So I like that. And again, it could either mean they just want to do it as long as they can to eventually work it out. I mean, it tells me, first of all, they think it can be worked out.
Yeah.
Because they still went for another 2 hours or 2 or 3 hours and didn't come back and go, we're done. They still want to talk more.
Yeah. They didn't come back and say, we can't agree.
Yeah. So maybe they asked for the extra 15 minutes to wrap up a few things. And then they're going to spend the morning doing the paperwork. But we'll just have to, or it could just mean they're just settling in and they're going to do another full day. Who knows? We'll find out on Monday.
I don't know. So much speculation.
Massachusetts says all 12 jurors must agree on a verdict. In criminal charges, it has to be unanimous. Let's see. This is, what have we got here? Have a few things to get through here. D, what we got? Your 5 Legal Vices membership. Polly Popcorn. From what I heard, the woman paramedic said she heard her say that I hit him. The other witnesses heard it from the paramedic. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lally said 4 different people heard it. My memory. Go ahead.
Oh, and then wasn't Carrie Roberts the one who said she didn't say it? She didn't hear it?
I can't remember. who said she did. Someone said they didn't hear it.
Yeah.
One of the groupies said they didn't hear it, but I remember it exactly the way Polly Popcorn is, that the paramedic heard it and then she reported it to other people as part of her duties.
But nobody wrote it down. Nobody bothered to actually do anything about it, allegedly. It's just like, oh yeah, she hit him with her car. It's cool. We don't need to write this down. We don't need to write anything down or do anything properly. Oh my God. Standard operating procedure, man. We have no idea. They messed it up so bad.
No, people are saying Martin Mull died. Oh, that's sad.
Oh.
Good old actor. You young'uns would probably know him from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I'm trying to think of the first thing I saw him in. I don't think it was that. I wasn't allowed to watch that as a kid because witchcraft.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was in Roseanne. I'm like the way older generation from,
Definitely Roseanne. We used to watch that show growing up.
Gosh, yeah, I'm like the old school Martin Mull.
Oh, I know the first movie I saw him in. I know what I know him from.
What's that?
Clue.
Clue, yeah, he was in Clue.
Greatest movie. Such a good movie.
He was in Arrested Development too.
Sad.
Anywho, sorry. All right. Well, Red Solo Cup, I'll fill you up with Snow and Blood. But anyway, I remember it the way Polly Popcorn remembers it. One person heard it and she reported it to other people. Then Lally says, no, she told 4 people. And 4 people heard it from Karen Reed. And they heard different things. One said, I hit him. And he said 3 times earlier on, and now he changed it to 4 times. I hit him. But then another person says, I hit him. My God, I hit him. So
everybody heard differently.
And Julie O, member for 21 months. I don't think Jackson covered exactly what they expected based on charges and seemed weird not to. Well, that's why when we finish this up here in just a couple of minutes, we'll do Lally's opening statements to see what he said he was going to prove versus what he didn't prove or what changed. So that's what we're on target here. And thank you so much for supporting for 21 months, Julio. And Julio also says premature stuff stings always. Okay. Thanks. Just moving right along. And Sonny or Chris with the $10. I have worked in EMS since 2007 and have been a paramedic since 2008. With an 8-year stint as a flight paramedic in the National Guard, the injuries are not consistent with the Commonwealth story. I ain't never been an EMS or a paramedic, and they're not consistent with it.
You've been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, I've been the guy in the back of the ambulance that.
So Jeff, tell me, like, you've been the guy in the receiving end of being hit by a car. Do you get no injuries from the neck down?
Oh no, I have significant injuries from the neck down.
Significant injuries, you say?
Yeah.
Not just a couple scratches on your arm?
I wish my right arm was paralyzed for about a year. I mean, literally paralyzed, no feeling for I think it was like 9.5 months before I could actually start to even twitch my fingers. And my right arm was so shattered that, I mean, normally they put like one titanium plate. They had to put a titanium plate on either side and bolt it together so that the bone would just grow straight again because it shattered. It's like if you took a dry chicken bone and twisted it, it just shatters into a bunch of pieces. That's what my arm looked like. So
your arm took the brunt of the hit then? Did you?
Well, no, I was on my motorcycle and this guy pulled out in front of me and I T-boned him. So I went, just.
So what you're saying is it would probably shatter your arm a little bit.
And it would fuck you up. Yeah, so there you
Oh
go.
God. Oh God. I can't even imagine. Oh my God. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah,
Oh
just
God.
go to Jeff. My right arm was paralyzed. Holy shit. Yeah, well, it like on my arms, and again, there that's the scar from the surgery.
Huh.
The
That's a little bit of a different scratch than
Yeah,
yeah.
I had the plates on either side because what had happened is where it broke, like the first break was about an inch above the elbow, and the radial nerve is what allows you to raise your arm and and open your fist. So
Yeah.
like do this and do that.
Yeah.
That like starts in the back and then it crosses and it lays right on the bone just above the elbow and then it goes down into the back of your hand. And right where it crosses the bone is right where I shattered it at the base. And the doctor said that's 100% you sever the nerve and you never use your arm again. We do
Yeah.
not know how. So he said, and this is a doctor in there. I do not know how. A miracle is the only word we can use to describe why you did not sever your nerve, but it compressed it and it damaged it a lot. So it was just basically like someone gave you a dead arm for 9 months.
Oh God.
And he said it's either going to come back or it's not. But now I've got about 70% feeling in this area of my hand, like my thumb and my index finger. It just kind of feels a little tingly, but hey, that's better than having a dead arm and never being able to use it. And if I raise my hand, this finger, the index finger, doesn't go all the. I don't know how you can't see it, but the index finger doesn't go all the way up. But that's it. So yeah, that's what happens when you get hit by a car. All right, let's get back to the case at hand. Skoda says mine was from nerve damage from surgery. The ulnar nerve. Yeah, mine was the radial nerve.
Ooh.
How did you go to the? Oh, it's better than that. I broke both arms at the same time. I don't know if you can see the scar here on my wrist. Yeah, that's because that took my hand off the growth plate and shoved it back about 2 inches. So that was a clean break on the growth plate on my wrist. But
please
both
don't
of-
ride motorcycles again.
both of my arms were broken at the same. And there's a lot you can't do with 2 broken arms. But of course, my brother, who's always the optimist, when I'm like, oh my God, I can't move my arm and it's numb and I can't feel anything. He's like, ooh, you can be visited by the stranger every night. On that note, shall we get back at it?
Yes,
Canton,
sir.
Virginia says, my brother had the LP of Martin Mull and his fabulous furniture in your living room, released in 1973, and I loved it. I was 12 years old. Rip Martin Mull. And speaking of someone who is very, very, very much alive, it's our next guest. It's Danny On.
I don't know how alive I actually am tonight, so.
Hey, girl. What's
Hey,
up,
Flag.
Danny?
How
You look
you
a
doing,
little
hon?
sunburnt from the pool.
Actually, this is just my natural red hue because I did not go to the pool. I took a nap, a very
Oh,
long nap.
nice.
I slept for
Nice.
like 6 hours and I'm back.
Nice.
Well, we're just at the end. We're getting the judge's last comments at the end of the day, and then we're going to watch Lally's opening and break it down a little bit. What did he prove? What didn't he prove? What did he change? What did he just fucking lie about?
We were just talking about Jeff's horrific being hit by a
Yeah.
car and the types of injuries you get from being hit by a car.
Yeah.
Do they look like puncture wounds on only one arm?
Nope.
Ah,
Weird,
okay.
huh?
Kinda.
All right. So let's see what the judge had to say at the end of the day.
Thank you, PC, sir. Quick second.
All right. So I sent the note in at 3:30 like I've done each day, asking if they want to go home or continue. They indicated that they want to continue until 4:15. So we will continue until 4:15. Madam Court Reporter, thank you. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, wait.
So I'll see you at 4:15.
Okay. Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, to me, that says that they got their instructions to go back and keep trying, and they're still talking to each other. They want more time, and I think that means there's room for a resolution to be reached. Flux, Danny, what do you guys think about the jury wanting more time after saying they were deadlocked a few hours before that?
It made me think they were going to have a verdict. I was like kind of nervous that they were going to come back and be like, okay, yeah, we're ready to read our verdict. Like with no announcement, no warning, just be like, yeah, we got our verdict. Here it is.
Danny?
That was my feeling as well, is that's how things were going to go. As a matter of fact, I told my chat, oh, let's just hang around because probably they said, oh, well, we'll wrap at 4:10 instead. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, they just need, a couple of minutes to get everything on paper. What scares me is I keep hearing from Larry and others online where they're saying, oh, well, there's one holdout in favor of innocence, in favor of not guilty. And I'm looking like, ugh. It makes me nervous that there's one holdout in favor of innocence instead.
Well, see, I don't put any stock in that whatsoever because nobody knows. It's all speculation.
Right.
And there's a big difference between one holdout for vehicular homicide and or operating or fleeing the scene of an accident involving death, and one person holding out for second-degree murder.
Yeah.
Let's just say there is one person holding out, is it for second-degree murder, or is it for leaving the scene of an accident involving death?
No one knows. It's all made up. We have no clue.
Yeah.
We're trying to guesstimate at this point. So, I was hopeful though that they would have a verdict after that. And it's just, to me, it's getting scared into the hung jury territory. That's actually more scary to me than anything.
I'd rather them come back hung than guilty, though. I'd so prefer a hung jury than a guilty verdict. I'm hoping for that hung instead of the guilty. But juries are stupid.
So many jokes there. Well, let's see what the judge.
Juries are stupid, but if Bev if this was a bench trial, don't you think that the judge would have found her guilty already?
Ooh, that's a good question. Sorry, I don't know why I went to vocal fry there.
No, I appreciated the vibe.
It was just because, I feel like she would. I'm sorry, you're guilty. That's how she would be.
Up with your fries.
Well, let's see what she said at the end of the day.
Anyone, don't do any independent.
Oh, wait, we gotta. There we go. Let's see if she said anything special. Mom. Dad looks like he's aged 10 years in the last 10 weeks.
I don't doubt it. This is hard. I couldn't imagine my son is murdered, presumably, and this bitch is going to walk because the cops
jurors, we all know how hard.
From his perspective.
Long day. We're going
Now she's telling them she's proud of how hard they've worked.
to let you go home. We'll see you Monday morning at 9 o'clock. To the extent that you can, please just not think about this case this weekend. Clear your heads. We'll start fresh on Monday. So please follow those instructions. Do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it. We'll see you later. Thank you.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, follow me.
All right. It doesn't look like she says anything to the lawyers after. There's not enough time. Paul's looking a little nervous there.
Someone said he was looking at the jury and nodded very subtly. If you go back a couple seconds, is that he's looking at someone on the jury and gives them a subtle nod. But I'm not sure how
we're to that level of conspiracy, are we?
Yes. That was over. I was over at Val's for a little bit.
Dude, another attorney jumped on me because I saw that video, the
Right
alleged
there, how he
photo video.
Which video?
You know the one where it looks like it's her and her attorney, and the attorney.
Oh, that horseshit video.
Yeah. I don't know if it's real or fake. All I said is I've never done that with my client. You know, like
it's totally fake. If you've seen the uncropped one, Jackson is standing on the right side of the picture.
Even if real, who the hell cares?
Yeah, it
doesn't like what is he going to do? Be investigated by the bar at some later point if real? Like it doesn't change anything.
But
right?
Ooh, scandalous.
And that's it. And it's just like I'm so done with people like they're getting people are so emotionally invested in this case.
It's
now this subtle nod is, I mean, come on, really?
Hold on, play it again.
I don't
zoom and enhance.
Yeah.
Zoom and enhance.
Zoom and enhance.
This was not a subtle nod. This was just a kind of a thing, I think. Right there.
Oh, that does look knowing for sure.
No,
like
to me
he's
it's
looking
just
at
like
someone.
Yeah. Nah, it's people read way too much into stuff.
Thank you, City Clerk.
Well, see, and the people that conspiracy theorists think the McAlberts put a plant on the jury. Here's the thing: the defense agreed with every single person that's sitting on that jury. Yep. They put them there too.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, they've done background checks, thorough background checks on everybody.
Which makes you wonder how the hell a safety expert, someone whose profession it was safety, ended up on what's her name's jury.
I don't know. I guess they thought it'd be helpful.
What's her name? Why is it escaping me?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Young girl. Armor.
Oh, yeah, Hannah Gutierrez.
Hannah Gutierrez. Yeah. How the hell did they let someone whose whole job was safety on that jury? So if they knew and they allowed that, okay, attorneys can make mistakes. Maybe there's a plant, but even so, you're absolutely right. It's still on the attorney to make sure that person's removed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's
Court's still in session.
All right, we'll see you Monday morning.
All right, that's it. That's the end of day whatever the hell it was, 34. That was the end of day 34. Julio says, Flux, first lesbian hoping for hung. Thanks for that. Appreciate that.
Is it a well-hung jury or just hung? That's
hopefully it's a well-hung jury.
I'm happy I brought two women on here. Jesus. Great.
It's awesome.
Get it all out, ladies. Get it all out of your system before
I made like a really little joke. Just little.
Like that's what she said.
A well-hung joke. Yeah. Is hung a Korean name? Actually, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it means brother.
Do you remember William Hung?
Yeah, well, William Hung was Chinese. Yeah.
Oh.
He was of Chinese descent.
Yeah.
But it'd be more of a hung than a hung. But anyway.
Still funny.
Right. Y'all got the raunch and filth out of your systems?
Maybe. I make no promises.
Listen, Jeff, all I need is for you to get your head out of the gutter so mine can roll on by.
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, here we are. This is going back to the beginning, going back to the before times.
I was gonna say she doesn't look as stressed out, so this must be at the beginning.
Yeah, this is the very beginning.
That's a really horrible place to start if it's this case.
Her makeup looks great.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, it's nice.
I voted not guilty, but the more I listen, the more I'm thinking hung jury. Well, hung jury is a win for Karen Reed at this point. It's another day she doesn't go to jail for a very long time.
Yeah, it's also a lot of money when they go to mess with her later.
If they retry it,
I think they're gonna retry it.
Wow. Okay. I mean, how do
they haven't learned their lesson?
Yeah, like why would they even try this in the first place? they're going to retry it again.
With even less evidence, because people will now really forget everything that happened the first time around.
And
So-
again, they'd have to do it minus Proctor because everybody knows about Proctor. That went a lot of places.
And
well,
they can't put Boston's best and brightest Trooper Paul on to talk about studying forward.
Oh,
because
come
he's an
on,
idiot.
man. He can talk to crime scenes. The crime
Yeah,
scene
The
spoke to
crime
him.
scene whisperer.
you hear voices? Yeah, I hear a lot of voices.
Budaberry says, I had a question about a hung jury earlier. What was your question about a hung jury earlier? Island of the $5 says, it's been a week, Jeff. It's not Saturday yet for most of us. Let the ladies have our jokes. Let us have it. All right. Well, have at it.
I cannot. I mean, and the way Trooper Paul was like, yeah, it hit his arm was like this, and it hit him.
And it spun him this way.
He
and
did a pirouette.
Yeah, and he bounced off a curb and he rolled through the snow and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Did the crime scene tell you anything else?
Yeah, that was a good line. Did the crime scene tell you anything else? All right, I'm going to back this up a couple of minutes because the watermelon I had for breakfast now is telling me it's done. I'll be right back.
Helpful, particularly if the
You can
case
listen to the end
involves
of the
many
instruction.
witnesses or complicated issues. Notes also can help you to remember specific testimony or evidence, such as times, places, dates, names, relationships, events, distances, things of that nature. Other jurors may feel that note-taking is a distraction and may interfere with hearing and evaluating the evidence. If you do take notes, I suggest you keep them brief. They are not and cannot be considered official transcripts of the trial testimony. However, bear in mind that although the court reporter is recording everything that transpires here, we do not have the capability of providing you with a transcript of the testimony at the conclusion or any time during the trial. So you will have to rely on your own memories of the testimony, perhaps supplemented by your notes. Regardless of whether or not you take notes, remember that how a witness testifies may be just as important as what he or she says. Therefore, your observations of the witness's appearance and demeanor on the witness stand may play an important part in your assessment of his or her credibility. So please do not let your note-taking distract you from an appreciation of all the evidence. Now I'm going to address the issue
All
of
right.
public interest in the
Now we can fast forward here.
You see Brudeberry's question.
If they retry this again, what looks worse? If they call Proctor and he's a fired former MSP, or if they call him and he's still employed in the retrial? If he's
That's
still
a great
employed,
question.
probably still employed, because then it'll be 3 or 4 years by that point. So
Yeah,
I think it would look worse.
Yeah.
If he's still employed. And then again, even if they don't put him on the stand, he already gave sworn testimony under oath.
Yeah,
D. Watt gifted 5 Legal Vices memberships. D. Watt with 5 more memberships. If you're one of the awesome people that got one of those, which would be Kathy Four, Big Al, Lisa Lee, Chris Gauze, and Ozzy Tank. Make sure you give D. Watt. What was that?
How can you see where memberships are given?
You open your YouTube studio page.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go to your YouTube studio and you open it here and you get to see over here who gifted the memberships.
Oh, and you can see who was gifted.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Or I guess you could just read the regular chat, but
I mean I do read the regular chat there. I guess I just never noticed that you can see that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Open it. Now what we're gonna do is I gave Lally a C- on his closing arguments. I was borderline D+, C-, but it was like the kind of the not the brightest kid in class that he put in a good effort. It was kind of a D+ effort, but you felt sorry for him, so you gave him a C-. That's kind of what I did with Lally and his closing argument, because he was disjointed, he was disinterested, he was boring. He got points for doing the I hit him stuff for the first 5 minutes. So yeah, it took him out of the failing grade and put him up into the D+. And what
how you're describing his performance describes exactly how I see my career.
Yikes.
Keep going.
All right. Well, it's
See
the
what?
dashboard
I
check.
never banned you. Hold on. Sorry. Ignore me.
Yes, you did. I was there for the D-what banning.
When did I ban D-what? For what? What did I ban
Ages
you for,
ago.
D-what?
I don't know. Probably for disagreeing with you because you're mean. No.
D-what? Forgive me. I'll unban you. I can't.
Let's see. Lady Autumn Sky says legal vice is C equals average. Lally gave that's why he got a C-. He was below average.
But passing. Because in law
It
school,
should have been
not passing.
It should have been a D+, but I felt it just felt like kicking a kid when he's down. So we gave him the sympathy C-.
D-what?
All right. All right.
No, he gets an F. As a layperson, he gets an F. He was boring and I couldn't follow it and it was terrible.
Oh, just wait for the opening statement review then.
As an ADHD attorney, he also gets an F from me. It's a no, bro.
Yeah.
What?
Danny's sorry for bans she doled out when she was hungry.
I'm looking to see if I banned D-what in my chat.
You can look at the people you've banned?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the studio, there's like a
51
list
more.
of people that have been banished.
We're all learning tonight.
And if you click on, you have to make sure you click on the extra ones if you ban a lot of people. And apparently I do. So make sure you expand the ban.
Right. Let's go here with Lally. And if we need to stop to make a comment, just let me know.
And I ask only that you keep your voice up, please.
Do my best. Good morning. So as Her Honor was telling you, this is
Fail.
one of the 2 opportunities that I will get to.
All right. Right out of the gate, again, it was the same criticism I had about his closing. No eye contact with the jury. He looked at them, said, good morning. And he said, like the judge told you. When you say you look at the you're talking to. Not your desk. This just tells you I don't care about you. To me, if he's like, I told you this, like, just if you're gonna talk to me and say you, look at me, and he doesn't do that.
He's terrible.
Her Honor was telling you, this is one of the 2 opportunities that I will get to address. The first of which right now, essentially what I'm going to attempt to do, and I know you heard over the course of the impairment process, a number of different witnesses that were listed out as far as potential witnesses in this case. So what my intent here is to provide as much of a roadmap as I can through those waters and help you to navigate sort of who these people are.
Okay, that's a good statement, because that's what I always say opening statements should be. It should be a roadmap. These are the elements of the crime. This is what we have to prove. This is how we're going to do it. Danny, what are you smiling about?
Oh, nothing. I just told D-what that they're a liar because I just checked and they're not banned. That's all. And then they gave me this. So
I get ban them at some point. Anyway, EMT 2666 says, if hung jury, can the state drop all charges? Yeah, that's what they got to do. Are they going to redo it, or are they just going to call it a day and let her go about her business? That's the big decision the prosecution has to make. Do we retry, or do we just drop the prosecution?
He's going to retry.
He totally would.
And what relation they have to this case.
Wow, we had a nervous prosecutor laugh from the get.
Yeah.
John O'Keefe grew up in Braintree. He was 46 years old when he passed. He was the son of John O'Keefe Jr. and Margaret or Peggy O'Keefe. He was a brother to Paul O'Keefe and to his sister, Kristen Furbush. Kristen was married, and so John's brother-in-law was a man named Stephen, and they had 2 children who were very young in 2013. Now, in 2013, Kristen, unfortunately, tragically, passed away, succumbing to cancer.
Okay, Danny as a lawyer and Flux as a layperson, what do you think about this? The family tree, all the begats, who begat who, humanizing the victim, obviously. But what do you guys think about it? Necessary, unnecessary?
I get why they want to do it, but I feel like for a courtroom, it's inappropriate because it has nothing to do with the case. Like, it doesn't go to proving Karen Reed's innocence or guilt. So that's just, but I understand why they do it, because they want you to feel bad. They want you to know the victim or whatever. But again, I feel like for a courtroom, it's like, just prove your case to me. That's what I want to know. Prove your case to me. Do that.
I don't mind it so long as it's actually effective and emotionally evocative. If you're just listing down, and he was born to so-and-so, and he was, what you were saying before, so-and-so begat so-and-so.
The begats. That's why I call it the begats.
The begats. That's not effective. And so I don't find that helpful at all. And I think it should be left out. It was very effective and helpful in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case, right? Where you had 2 children, one mother. That was a very heart-wrenching and powerful moment for the prosecution at the very beginning. It's not, to me, it's not, saying that, oh, this person should be found guilty because these people died. That's not the case at all. It's just, it's giving some credit, I think, to the life of the person whose life was taken. And I think that's a respectable and perfectly appropriate thing to do. Where you get in trouble is where you say, you lead with that, which is what he's doing. And they did it in Lori Vallow's case too. And I didn't like that. You lead with that. And then you go, and then the defendant, and so it's where you're taking that beautiful moment and weaponizing it against the defendant that I have a little bit of an issue with. But I do think it's appropriate so long as it's done appropriately.
I thought it was a bit much here. Like talking about the
agree.
cousins and the nephews and the nieces and the fathers and the grandfathers and Bud Dial Brian says, who are the guests? I know Danny and not the other. Well, you know Danny, so you know Danny. Flux is House of Flux. She's one of my mods. She's one of Danny's mods. She's one of the moddiest mods that ever modded, and she's a breath of fresh air.
She's great.
A layperson. House of Flux.
Guys. Oh.
Everybody should get over. Just open up another window while you listen to this. Go to House of Flux. It's all one word, 2 X's, and subscribe to her. She does cool Minecraft stuff. She does cool military stuff. She does cool lesbian stuff. She does she does lots of cool stuff. And
what's lesbian stuff?
I don't know.
Adopting kids and them running off of the side of a cliff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I heard about that one.
I'm sorry, I just read that case last night. I'm so sorry.
No, did you hear there's that? No, because that case is, because where's the other kid? Where's the oldest son?
No one knows. No one freaking knows.
Do you think he's alive?
Jeff, do you know what case we're talking about?
I have no idea. So let's focus on this one.
And then there's yes. Yeah,
let's focus on this one.
We won't talk about the other lesbian case where the one girl got inseminated and then her and her partner broke up, and so she decided to sue the donor for baby money, and the court agreed with her, and now he had to pay.
No! Oh my God, Flux, you need to send me that information.
Okay.
As I was
sorry.
As I was saying, Flux does some cool streams with Mrs. Flux where they talk about base stuff from the non-cis white male perspective. I hate that word. Oh, Mahalo Man Still waiting for Danny to snag my idea from a long time ago. Danny Banhammered Bandanas, aka Bandanis. You need to make bandanis. Yeah, that's good. Bandanis is cool.
I have never heard of bandanis. This is great. Maybe you told me and maybe I forgot. My brain obviously is not functioning right today. So,
well, speaking of brains not functioning right, here's Lally's opening statements. That was a good segue. I'm proud of that one.
November of 2013. Within months of that, Mr. O'Keefe's brother-in-law, Kristen's husband, Stephen, passed away as well. Now, initially, when John O'Keefe's sister passed away,
I thought that was in
sort of
court.
the initial plan of that situation was
that was Jeff. I think
John
that was
O'Keefe
Jeff.
was going
You
to
just muted.
move in with Stephen Thorbush and the kids and assist as far as raising them.
Be clear, I love
When
lesbians.
Stephen passed away a few months
Me
after
too.
his wife, before those
I'm
plans
married to
were
one.
made, finally,
All of my best friends are lesbians.
John O'Keefe then moved in with his niece and nephew and assumed the parental role and assumed legal guardianship with respect to both of those children. Now, he was assisted in this by a great number of people within the town of Canton where the Thorbushes lived and where John moved into the home with the two children there. There were other parents within the neighborhood, other parents within the children's age group. You'll hear from a number of them over the course of this trial, but they include Mrs. Carrie Roberts and Mrs. Jennifer McKay. They helped Mr. O'Keefe out during those initial stages and during the time that he assumed this role. He also got help from his work. John O'Keefe was a proud member of the Boston Police Department, had been for many years. He had been a patrolman prior to moving in with the children and assuming this sort of role. Boston Police Department helped him greatly as far as positioning him into more of a desk role, working in the sex offender unit with more regular hours to sort of assimilate himself to this new life and this new role that he assumes with these children. Initially, John O'Keefe lived in the house with the kids. However, in 2018, they moved into a new home, sort of a new home that they could have as their own. That home was located also within the town of Canton, sort of on the Stoughton side of Canton at One Meadows Avenue. John O'Keefe raised these children.
I feel bad for John O'Keefe. This is the most boring recitation of his life I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's. I feel bad that nobody's ever gonna know what actually happened to him.
What did I miss?
Nothing.
Lally being boring.
The office called and I had to make excuses why I'm just not gonna do shit today. It's Saturday. That's the big answer. It was one of those clients. We need your answer over the weekend. That's easy for you to say on your Friday night, people. So yeah. Anyway, they'll get it tomorrow late night. Anyway, so what were you guys commenting about when I returned?
I just said I feel bad for John O'Keefe and his family. Like his mom is back there crying. And this prosecutor is giving the most boring recitation of John O'Keefe's life. He is making John O'Keefe sound so unremarkable, just in his inflection, his delivery, and everything else. And like, if you listen carefully to what he's saying, it sounds like he's a really amazing guy. And this is this is all he gets. Like, I just feel bad for John O'Keefe. That's all.
Well, that's what I said while we were watching this live when it was happening. I'm saying there's no passion in his voice. There's if you're gonna say this guy took in his dead brother's children and raised them as his own, not
right.
Then a few months later, just a few short time after that, his mother died, and then he went over and lived with John for a while, and they lived there, and he's not interested in his own statements.
I know. And so how am I supposed to focus on this? Like, I'm struggling. I'm looking up Lower Calf Creek Falls right now.
Oh, Jesus. Now the car guy's calling. Continue to talk amongst yourselves. Think of something to say here.
Just press play.
I mean, we could keep it's sad because, like, for me, I've always looked at lawyers are storytellers. Like, if you can tell the better story, lay out the evidence in a better way, like 9 times out of 10, you're gonna win. And you can tell the difference between Yannetti and Jackson and Lally. They actually have like inflection and personality, whereas like Lally has the personality of a wet sock.
Speaking of wet socks, it's going to be raining shortly, and my guys just finished washing the car, so I have to run down and get the car keys from him and do a walk around the vehicle. I'll be back probably in about 5 minutes, so I don't know what to do. What I guess what we're going to do is I'm going to rely on you peeps. We'll just play it straight through until I come back, and then I want to hear your comments on what we watched while I wasn't here.
Great.
So,
I get homework. Thanks,
take
Jeff.
take notes or something for 5 minutes. I'll be right back. I got to go get the car right before it rains 7 inches in the next 36 hours.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Ooh.
Niece was the elder of the two, was about 14 at the time that John O'Keefe died. And his nephew was about 11 years old at the time that John O'Keefe died. January 28th, 2022. It was a relatively typical day. It was a Friday going into a Saturday of January 29th. Sort of typical in the sense of most sort of suburban parents. There were a lot of activities, weekend sports, practices, games, things of that nature that the O'Keefe and Furbush family had to look forward to. One little difference when it came to that particular day of January 28th and the 29th is the weather. So there had been predicted, and there was going to be a snowstorm, an insignificant one. A blizzard essentially was coming in overnight that Friday and the Saturday, lasting through most of the day on Saturday the 29th. And as a result of that, most of those sort of typical, weekend routine activities that would keep most people, including those within the town, Canton busy,
Blizzard parties
have been canceled ahead of time. Everybody knew what was coming. Everybody knew essentially you weren't going to leave your house all that much the following day. Now, also on January 28th, Mr. O'Keefe had received some news in respect to his niece. So his niece and her best friend were in 8th grade at the time, going into high school in the fall of 2022. They both applied to a private school called Bishop, and they both found out on the 28th that they had been accepted to that school. So the friend, as well as her father, a gentleman by the name of Michael Camerano, who's both he and his wife, Catherine Camerano, were friendly with John O'Keefe. They had children around the same ages as both John's niece and his nephew. And they had come over to their house on Meadows Ave that evening to celebrate the girls getting into that school. The nephew of John, the 11-year-old, was sleeping over a friend's house that night. He left that home sometime around 7 p.m. or so, got picked up and went to sleep over at his friend's house. John O'Keefe and Michael Camerano then decided to travel out to a local establishment on Washington Street called C.F. McCarthy's Bar and Restaurant. You're going to hear testimony and you're going to see surveillance video and you're going to see receipts and all kinds of things from a variety of different establishments, all sort of located within Canton Center along that strip in Washington Street. Now, they get Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano leave the girls at home. They then go to C.F. McCarthy's, arriving there sometime between 7:30 and 8 p.m. They eventually cajole another friend of theirs, Mr. Kurt Roberts, to come out to the bar and join them as well. And there's some other people that are located within the bar, including Mr. James Sullivan, who we hear from, who was present at the bar that night as well. Eventually, the defendant, Karen Reed, joins them at this establishment, C.F. McCarthy's, sometime just before 9 p.m. Now, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed had met sometime in 2004. They had dated briefly during that time and reconnected sometime around March of 2020, around the time of the COVID-19 sort of pandemic shutdown. They had started dating around that time period, or reconnected during that time period, and the defendant had stayed at the house in Canton several nights a week. She had helped out with the children. In the month or so leading up to Mr. O'Keefe's death, the relationship soured. You will see text messages between Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed to that effect. You will hear testimony from the children, from John's niece and nephew in regard to things they observed within that relationship. And you'll hear testimony from some other individuals as far as their observations or things that they heard. Turning to January 29th, 2022. Just after 6 a.m., the Canton Police Department receives a 911 call from a woman reporting a male party, subsequently identified as John O'Keefe, found in the snow outside a residence at 34 Fairview Road. At the time, as I mentioned, blizzards that had been predicted was occurring, heavy snow, temperatures in the teens, wind bustling around. Officer Stephen Saraf and Officer Stephen Mullaney of the Canton Police were dispatched along with Canton Fire and EMS, and you'll hear from them in regard to their response and what they observed on scene. In particular, with Officer Saraf, he'll have as an exhibit, I anticipate, a cruiser camera video from his cruiser detailing or memorializing sort of his response in the darkness, in the blizzard type conditions as he's driving from the Canton Police Station, where he was located when he received the call, to 34 Fairview Road. When they arrived there, they observed three individuals, three females, sort of off to the left side of the property. When I say the left side of the property, I mean if you're standing out in the street facing 34 Fairview Road, off to the left side of the property, there's a flagpole, there's a fire hydrant, there's some bushes. That is where Mr. O'Keefe is located. To the right side of the property is sort of the driveway and the mailbox, other things that you'll become familiar with through photographic evidence and other means, of course, of this trial. The three females that the officers observed there were then identified as the defendant, Karen Reed, Mrs. Jennifer McCabe, who had received a phone call earlier in the morning from the defendant, as well as Mrs. Terry Roberts, who had also received a phone call early that morning from the defendant. The several firefighters from the Canton Fire Department you'll hear from in regard to their observations of injuries, abrasions, and lacerations to the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe. You'll hear their testimony in regard to swelling of his arms and other injuries that he observed. They observed redness from the cold that he had been lying out in for some time. You'll hear the testimony from these firefighters, Timothy Nuttall, Anthony Flamati, Matthew Kelly, Francis Walsh, Katie McLaughlin, and Greg Woodward. And at least from three of those firefighters, you'll hear testimony anticipates detailing statements that the defendant made to them when they had asked about the origination of some of those injuries. The defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Mr. O'Keefe was then taken from the front lawn onto what they call a scoop stretcher. As he's doing that, I anticipate you'll hear Ms. Roberts' testimony that despite the 6 inches of snow approximately that was on.
Hi, I'm back.
Oh my God, he's so boring.
How far have we gotten in his timeline here?
Oh my God, I don't even understand. Like, so we were at the 28th, but now I don't know. We're still at the night of, I think.
Has she hit him with a car yet?
Oh yeah, that's right. He just said in a very monotone, I hit him, and then just like moved on like it was nothing.
Like how long ago?
Like 30 seconds ago, if that.
All right. Well, I want to go. He hasn't mentioned the time yet, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All righty. Well, now that I'm here, we can also listen to it at like 1.25 speed.
Oh, wonderful.
Whilst Danny has an animated conversation. My car is now clean and pristine. Just a couple of hours
before the rain.
Yeah, but I'm going to leave it in the underground parking for 2 days. Hopefully it'll go
nice.
All right. Flux is laughing at your silly comments. Okay. Oh yeah, we'll speed it up now. Don't worry, peeps. We'll do that right now before I forget. We'll put it up to 1.25. That'll make it a little bit faster. Anything else we need to talk about? So you're saying it's just boring.
He's so monotoned. Like no inflection, no enthusiasm, nothing. Just this is my script and I'm reading off of it and you're listening to it. No matter what I say, it's the same tone and the same thing and the same everything. And it's just boring and putting you to sleep because every once in a while I look up and it's not very entertaining and it's not very exciting at all.
Wow, he hasn't changed since the first time I watched this, it seems. But I'm just waiting for him to get to something of substance so we can comment on how he's, on what evidence he's presented to support that particular assertion he's making. Y'all are disrespecting Trooper Paul's certificate. Poor bastard. Anyway, we do have a few things. D What has gifted 5 more Legal Vices memberships. Wow. Thank you so much, D What. That's Doggo Cam. Wow, I just realized that. Hang on. That's we've achieved Doggo Cam, and I wasn't even trying. And they're being so
well,
cute.
that's fancy.
They're being so super cute right now. So we got to do our thing, which is release the hounds. And there we go. Let's see. We'll put them up there. What are we gonna do? Oh, now they move. They were just sitting there cute, looking out the window. Now they're moving. Of course.
You know, I had a question. I was thinking about this. I don't remember what day it was. Have you ever actually seen Release the Hounds?
Is it a book, a movie?
Oh no, it's like a reality game show where like they release contestants into these woods and they have to go through these challenges, and one of the last ones is they have to outrun a pack of dogs, and it is hilarious. And I'm pretty sure that's what the sound clip is from at the very last run they do. It's
they released the
hounds.
That's from The Simpsons when Homer kept breaking into Mr. Burns' house. And he's like, release the hounds.
Oh, no, it's like an actual TV show. And it's kind of like a Fear Factor type of thing, except it's just like actually scary and not like gross. And at the end, you have to outrun dogs. And depending on how well you do in the challenges is how much of a head start you get to get over the fence before the dogs get you.
That's what we should do with Trooper Proctor, I guess, and maybe Prosecutor Lally. Let's see if they can avoid getting marks like John O'Keefe on them.
Yes.
Hit him with a car and let the dogs bite him and see which one looks more like the injuries. Island with the $2. You are disrespecting Trooper Paul's certificate. That was a super chat. Thank you very, very much. And Graham Snurdley said the Legal Vice did hear about Sarah Boone being compelled to proceed pro se. Well, she's only had 9 lawyers or 8 lawyers. You know,
so
there comes a point when the judge goes, you hire your own or you represent yourself. And very quickly, I don't want to get derailed too much by this. One side of me is like thinks it's hilarious, and it's going to be a shit show trial. But the other side of me is kind of disappointed and upset by it because it's going to be a shit show trial.
Yeah. It's going to be.
It's a double-edged sword.
But at least this one has levity, unlike this case, which is just highly depressing and completely terrible.
There's levity in it. Okay.
I mean, it's a sad case because, someone died tragically, but like in a suitcase though. I'm not trying to be a dick.
You're weird, Flux.
I'm not trying to be a dick, but like
now that we're all caught up, we're at 1.25 speed here. And I want to hear him talk about the parts where here's the evidence. This is what we're going to show so that we can determine whether he showed it or not.
Detailing statements that the defendant made to me. I had asked about the origination of some of those injuries. The defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him.
Okay, that's different. That was I hit him.
Mm-hmm.
Closing arguments. It had graduated to I hit him to 4 times.
And still like no inflection, no enthusiasm, no change. Like that is supposed to be your case right there. That statement is your case. And it's just like,
Well, exactly. And I think I pointed that out the first time too, is like, you want to pound it. She said, I hit him. No, I hit him. All right, move on. Improv Man celebrating his 3rd super chat on a live stream. I don't know why it tells me that, but it did. Improv Man says, are the dogs trained or deadly? Mine clearly not, but maybe the ones on the show are trained.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're like trained dogs. They're just like, I'm pretty sure they're like, rejected like police canines or something. But they're German Shepherds and they sound scary. Like regardless if you're running from dogs, regardless if they're trained or not, you're going to get a little like nervous.
I don't want to be chased by dogs ever, please.
Right?
Mr. O'Keefe was then taken from the front lawn onto what they call a scoop stretcher. As he's doing that, I'm anticipating you'll hear Ms. Roberts' testimony that despite the 6 inches of snow approximately that was on top of Mr. O'Keefe's body and the snow throughout the roadway, front yard, everywhere around where he was, there was grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe, where his cell phone was located underneath his body as he lay on that front lawn.
Okay, that part they did show that the cell phone was under his body, and I mean, is the grass coming from there was no snow at the time, or is it just because there was a warm body laying on it for several hours while he was dying? I don't know.
I mean,
And transported.
Yes.
Just speaking from experience, because I did live up there for a number of years. I mean, I think it was probably just because they said it started snowing at noon, or I mean at midnight. So if he was out there, it was probably a thin layer and then melted under him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes sense. But yeah, makes sense.
By firefighters Kelly, Donati, and Nuttall, as well as the ambulance being driven by firefighter McLaughlin to the Good Samaritan Medical Center. Once there were some observations, and you'll hear testimony from Dr. Justin Rice from that facility as far as observations consistent with what I anticipate with hear from those firefighters. But then there is a certain warming procedure that they go through.
All right, this is actually weird, and I apologize for doing this, but we're going to have to go back to normal speed because there's something weird about his vocal cadence that makes him almost impossible to understand at 1.25 speed.
It's because he's weird. He's just weird. His face is weird. He's weird. I don't like his face. He has jowls.
He does. but yeah, there's just something weird about the way he talks that I think it's the way he like drops the ends of his words and the ends of his sentences that make it not register at 1.25, because I can't understand a word he's saying at 1.25. Not because it's too fast, it's just because there's something weird about his voice.
Trying to bring his body to.
All right, so yeah, they did waste time putting some doctor on the stand to testify about pumping fluids into his body to try to warm him, which has nothing to do with being hit by a car in and of itself. So,
or Karen being the one doing it.
Yeah. So they did prove that. Well, they did put a witness on the stand to testify that they pumped warm fluids into him.
Because when Mr. O'Keefe arrives at the Good Samaritan Medical Center, his body temperature is 80. And after those...
Did he say 8?
80.
Oh.
Yeah, 8 would be real cold.
I was like, wow, that's like below freezing cold.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't have tried to revive him at that point.
Yeah. I mean, still though, 80's not good.
All right. So yeah, they have also testified to this, the 80 degrees.
Resuscitative efforts prove unsuccessful. Mr. O'Keefe is eventually pronounced by Dr. Rice at approximately 7:50. Shortly after that, when the defendant is then being driven away.
Did we hear from Dr. Rice?
Yes.
Was that dude on the stand who was like the worst doctor in the world?
No.
Okay. Never mind then.
I'm not sure which doctor was the worst doctor in the world, but this was just the guy that says, "Yeah, we did this," and he was dead. Yeah.
Okay.
He was on the witness stand a short period of time. He or she, Rice. No, not on my notes list.
From the scene by Ms. Roberts, who is now going to go pick up Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, Jonathan's parents in Braintree, and then bring them to the Samaritan Medical Center in Brockton. The defendant makes some statement.
Oh, it was the stupid doctor she's talking about, say people.
Yeah. Oh God, that doctor pissed me off so bad.
Why?
He was a RPF.
Yes, use your words.
RPF.
Yeah. In what way?
In all of the ways.
Give me an example.
I mean, I don't even remember his testimony. I just remember it pissing me off so bad. I could not even understand that he was a doctor, because he was talking about like the injuries that he had and the lack of injuries that he had, and how, you know, he didn't actually write the report, but he like reviewed, like, it gave me a headache, and I'm pretty sure I tuned most of it out, but it was pissing me off.
I'm not having any particular memory of anything he said.
It's because it was that bad. Like, he was not a doctor. He was like the emergency room doctor, and it was bad. He was like, yeah, they said he was dead, so like, okay. And like, totally, I hated him. Okay. I did not like him. Sorry.
Self-harm. As a result of that, she's then transported to the Good Samaritan Medical Center as well by two firefighters named Daniel Whitley and Jason Becker. And amongst the statements that they gained from the defendant as they're having a conversation with her in regard to that, in regard to her treatment and diagnosis, she indicates that the last that she saw Mr. O'Keefe, they had gotten into an argument before he had gotten out of the car in front of Fairview Road. Now, you'll also hear testimony from some of the other first responding officers from the Canton Police Department, including Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, Sergeant Sean Good, and Sergeant Michael Lenk, in regard to their initial response, their observations, people that they spoke to, where they went, and their ability to recover within these blizzard conditions that are still ongoing.
Okay, this is bad. I didn't realize that he'd said this. I don't recall him saying this, but he said, I mean, the crime scene investigators, the initial people on scene, he doesn't testify, you know, who they talked to or what they found. He said, you're going to hear testimony about what they did and who they talked to. Mm-hmm. Well, duh. Tell us what they're going to tell us. What are these witnesses going to, say something like, these witnesses will testify that they found these pieces of evidence. They will testify that they interviewed people and were told this.
Jeff.
Yeah.
He's going to tell them, I hit him.
Yeah. Hey, Bama Girl 1955, what's up?
Pieces of
I was just going to say, it's bad. It's all bad.
It is.
But I do remember having blizzard parties. Those are a thing.
Let's listen.
Yeah, where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found. You'll also hear from Lieutenant Charles Ray of the Canton Police Department, who was tasked with, at this point in time, the Canton Police weren't aware that the nephew was over at a sleepover. They weren't aware that Mr. Camarano had come over to the residence on Meadows Ave and picked up the niece, bringing her back to his house, as she was left unattended when the defendant left to go looking for Mr. O'Keefe. So unaware of that, they go do a well-being check at approximately 8:22 in the morning. And they also have cruiser camera video attached to their cruiser. You'll see that video and when they pull into the driveway at Meadows Ave, approximately 8:22 in the morning, they pull in directly behind where eventually you'll hear Ms. McCabe left the defendant's vehicle after driving it from her house to Meadows Ave in search of Mr. O'Keefe. And you'll have that footage, and you'll be able to see the back of the defendant's vehicle, specifically the right rear taillight of that.
I don't recall that video. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember them showing video of the police cruisers going to the house to do a wellness check at 8 o'clock that morning and showing the rear tail light of her vehicle. I don't remember that.
I don't think that was ever introduced.
Yeah, I have no memory of it. So chat, this is your chance to, it was there. Okay. Okay, we have one. It was there.
You can't see anything.
They never showed her car. You can't see anything. The car was parked there, but it was covered in snow. It was vague, hard to tell if it was snow. The video was on there. Yeah, I don't have any memory of that video. So it must have been a big nothing burger, because you guys remember it. I have no memory of that video being shown.
Jeff, this whole case was a big nothing burger.
True. Flex is adorable when cranky, says Kofi.
Now, you'll also hear testimony, as I mentioned, from the Cameranos, from Mr. Roberts, from Mr. So. Also, they were all present with the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe at CF McCarthy's. You'll hear testimony from another number of other individuals who were at the waterfall. The waterfall is a bar located across the street, essentially, from CF McCarthy's on Washington Street in Canton Center, and somewhere that Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant went after leaving CF McCarthy's at approximately 11 p.m. Now, from that establishment, you'll hear from Rebecca Traers, who was working as a bartender at the waterfall that evening. You'll hear from a couple named Nicholas and Karina Polakaitis. Who are friends of friends.
Really quick, Just a Hippie says no bruising, which they do argue like back and forth a little bit. And I just am now realizing they're saying, oh, because of the snow, like that's why it wasn't bruising just yet. But in the same breath, they're saying his eyes were bruised because he got hit by a car.
Yep.
I'm just now realizing that.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
And again, he's doing this. He's not telling us what the evidence is going to be. He's saying we're going to call some witnesses from the bar. Well, so what? What are these? This is not a roadmap. Tell us what we're going to put people on the stand that are going to testify. She did this at this time. He did this at this time. No, we're just going to call some people from the bar.
This is what I would call a rough draft or an outline.
Outline, exactly.
Yeah, not what you need for opening.
And outline is a perfect example because you say, okay, witnesses from the bar. And the next step would be in the outline would be this is what they're going to testify to. But he just leaves that part of the outline out.
O'Keefe through their daughter around the same age as Mr. O'Keefe.
Does that matter?
Mrs. Kolakaitis had some conversation with the defendant that evening, as well as herself and Mrs. McCabe at the waterfall. She left around the same time as they did. She parked on Washington Street around the same area as Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed did, specifically in Ms. Reed's car. And she observed Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant walking toward the defendant's vehicle, and specifically the defendant walking towards the driver's side.
Now that's I want to hear that again because I don't recall that testimony either.
Herself and Mrs. McCabe at the waterfall. She left around the same time as they did.
They parked in the place.
On Washington Street.
Somebody saw
the same area as Mr. O'Keefe.
John O'Keefe get out of the car and walk around to the driver's side.
And Ms. Reed did, specifically in Ms. Reed's car. And she observed Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant walking toward the defendant's vehicle, and specifically the defendant walking towards the driver's side.
Oh, okay, that was from leaving the bar. Okay,
you'll hear testimony from a Christopher and Julie Albert, who were people who were at one point neighbors of Mr. O'Keefe. They knew him well from being neighbors of him. Christopher Albert owns a pizza shop, also located within that Canton Center area. Mr. O'Keefe, earlier in the day of the 28th, had been into that pizza shop along with his nephew to get his nephew a slice. Christopher Albert and Mr. O'Keefe had some conversation regarding what they were doing that night, and it's Christopher Albert who actually texts Mr. O'Keefe and indicates that they're over at the waterfall and that he should come over shortly before Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant.
Welcome back, Danny.
Sorry about that.
No, me gone long time too. So yeah. Well, welcome back to Lallydom here. We've just been commenting that rather than tell us what the evidence is going to show, he's just saying we're going to call some people from the bar, then we're going to call someone from the neighborhood, then we're going to call that. So what?
You know,
and Flux made a good point. This sounds like an outline. He's just hitting like the titles without telling you what's in the body of that section.
That's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like a professor who's so done, but he's reached tenure and he's just going through his syllabus, chapter by chapter, the first day, and you're like, oh God, kill me.
And you want to know what it honestly made me think of? Because I did go to school up in Rhode Island, right? And what for our for one of our graduation requirements, we had to do a mock crime scene, a mock investigation, and then we had to present our case to a mock jury. And it was like, as I was prepping like my case and stuff, I was going down my outline and I'm like, oh, this is what Lally's doing, except I was in school and he's doing this at a real trial.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly it. You're exactly right on.
Well, Snurdly says it's a great way to provoke curiosity. It is, but your opening statement should be, this is what we're going to show you this evidence. We're going to show you that at this time she went and did this. Then we're going to show you that they drove to this site. And then we're going to, somebody, trooper, whoever is going to show that this happened. And, neighbor witness is going to say that she saw him run over him with a car. This is, you want to tell them, you want to walk them down the path. We're going to show you every element of this crime so that you can come back with a guilty verdict. But he's just saying, these are the 70 some odd people we're going to call as witnesses.
And you have to give them a little bit of a story, right? It's just kind of like when you pop into a trial halfway through and you're like, what is this about? Like, what are we even watching? Why does this person matter? If you don't give them the layout of the case right away and tell them the story, then they don't know what to look for. They don't know what evidence to look for. That's what you want. You don't want them to suspend their disbelief to the point that they're not buying what you're selling. You want to sell this to them. You want to say, hey, so-and-so's going to show you that there was the broken taillight and this taillight was attached to his skin. That's what so-and-so's going to say. And, when we look through the evidence, this is what we discovered. This is what we found. And this is why you should care. He's giving me no reason to care. He is giving me reasons to go and take a sleeping pill right now and go off to bed and hope that tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Yeah. And you, for the opener and for the state's case, you don't want curiosity. You want the opposite of curiosity. You want them to know, not to wonder. You want them to know, these are the facts. This is what I'm going to show you. And this is what we're going to prove. You don't want curious to like, oh, well, what if this or what if, because then when you get curiosity, that's when you get reasonable doubt. So I feel like you want to direct them with as much certainty as you can to give them exactly what you want, which is to believe you.
And then when you get to that point in the testimony, you go, oh yeah, I remember the prosecutor said they were going to show us this. So and that reinforces it.
It's very much like those weirdos like me who like to watch reviews of movies before I actually go watch the movie. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Oh, this is that part in the trailer. Oh, this is that scene. Oh, okay. That's how it connects, right? That's how you build the intrigue, is by giving them the trailer. This should be like a movie trailer for the movie before you play it. Get people excited, get them salivating, get them interested. I have zero interest right now.
All right, well, that's good. We got about 20 minutes left of his opening statement, it looks like. So the end is near.
At least for the prosecution, you have to do this because you're proving it beyond a reasonable doubt. If you're the defense, you want to have it be more open, more intriguing, more interesting, right? More, what about this? Lots of open-ended questions. But here, you shouldn't be leading your case with open-ended questions or just with a recitation of who's going to be talking.
See, Graham says, no, you don't want to box yourself in. If you don't want to box yourself in if you're the defense.
Right.
If you're the prosecutor, you want to say, this is our concrete case. This is our case. You want to box yourself in because you're supposed to be able to prove already beyond a reasonable doubt exactly what happened.
Yeah, and you want that jury locked down.
Yeah, if the prosecutor goes, we don't really know what happened. Here's some possibilities. That doesn't. You want to be locked in.
Strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for you.
Yeah, you want to be locked in as a prosecutor, not as the defense. You want to be able to have some wiggle room. And Graham is also he's kind of repeatedly made the comment that he feels that the defense did a little bit of burden shifting onto themselves by trying to prove she didn't do it.
That's a fair comment. Honestly, that's how it feels. Watching the trial, that's how I felt. I felt like, they probably took on way more of the burden than they needed to.
Did the defense ever say how the taillight pieces got at the crime scene? Yeah, they said Proctor put them there.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the way the defense. I thought the defense distracted the prosecution, because a lot of the prosecution's witnesses, all of the data guys, and a lot of the other witnesses were put on specifically to counter the defense's arguments, rather than to prove their own case. I think it was a little bit of like a double agent going on.
In my layperson opinion, it seemed like the prosecution was playing defense a lot. Was that 90% of their case was they were the defense, just trying to combat what the defense said in their opening. And I'm like, this is just they're defending, and they're not proving their case at all.
So I can see how you can see it both ways. Yeah, Graham again says you masterfully go to the defense into taking on the burden of the proof.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that the defense has had this strategy. I think that's how they were able to convince the dismissal of the cases before, those high-profile cases that we've talked about. I think that's how they were able to do it before. And I think that that's been a strategy that served them well. I think at least if you give them enough to ask questions, I think that should have been the closer. He should have focused more on the point of, if you have enough questions about what happened that night and you're not entirely sure what happened that night, then you cannot conclude that anything criminal occurred, and you can therefore not conclude, absolutely can't conclude, that my client is guilty of committing said crime.
Mm-hmm.
I like that approach.
And that's how he should have led it with it. If there is any question in your mind about what occurred that night and whether or not it constituted a crime, how in the world could you find my client guilty beyond a reasonable doubt?
I like that.
That's all he had to say. But he never brought that up. He continued to focus on his defense theory, which is one way to do it. But you're then trusting a bunch of jurors who are going to sit there and debate and fight and argue over what happened. And you don't want to be in that position as the defense. You want to be in the position of them arguing, did anything happen?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal opinion.
I like that. That's good. Comments, Lux?
No, I'm just going to say, I'll be right back. I got to feed my cats.
All right. And we'll continue this here. We'll get through as much as we can before you come back.
All right. Be right back.
Make their way from C.F. McCarthy's home. Now, Christopher Albert left directly from the waterfall and went home. He was sort of walking distance away from it. His wife, Julie Albert, had left earlier in the evening. There was a band playing at the waterfall that night. Julie Albert started to get a migraine and she left.
Who the hell cares there was a band playing at the bar that night? He says there was a band playing at the bar that night in exactly the same tone of voice he uses when he says the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
He's got to give him a story. He's just reciting the story. Maybe he's trying to sound credible. Maybe he feels like too much passion sounds like a used car salesman, so he's trying to avoid that. I don't know. Maybe this is his personality. This is it. Okay.
Well, this is definitely his personality.
It's like grape nuts. Okay. He is the grape nut attorney. Nobody really wants to eat it, but if there's nothing else there, I guess we'll eat it begrudgingly.
Nobody wants to eat Lally's nuts, especially the grape ones. Yeah.
No one wants to eat the grape nuts.
No,
he has the personality of grape nuts.
Yeah, grape nuts are great texture-wise, but you need a ton of sugar on them.
Yeah, you do.
A ton of sugar on them.
Something.
And Lally needs some sugar. Ew! I hate myself for saying that.
Before most of the group. Included within that, and sort of how they came to the waterfall, the Albert family in particular. Julie Albert went there along with her sister-in-law, Nicole Albert, as well as her niece, Caitlin Albert, her niece's boyfriend, and Mr. Christian Morris, and they had dinner at the waterfall earlier in that evening. Now, Nicole Albert lives at 34 Fairview Road. She has a husband named Brian Albert, who's also a Boston police officer. Brian Albert had gone with a friend of his, who's also in law enforcement, a man named Brian Higgins. And they had gone separately, but had come home together from a funeral for a fallen police officer in New York City. came home early to sort of beat the weather, and eventually they meet up with Brian Albert's family at the waterfall. Now, Tristan Morris, who was Caitlin Albert's boyfriend, had left the waterfall at some point in the evening. He then returns later to the residence on Fairview Road and picks up Caitlin Albert, brings her home. All of this is in relation to Brian Albert and Nicole Albert's son, Brian Albert Jr., whose birthday was coming up the following day, the day of the snowstorm on the 29th. So he had been back at the house at 34 Fairview while his family was out at the waterfall. He had a number of friends that had come over that evening to celebrate his birthday with him.
All right, I got to confess something here. The whole purpose of doing this stream was to review carefully his opening statements and to comment on them.
Do you feel like
I just blanked out the entire last minute of this.
I'm looking at a cool thing my dad sent me. He just watched the rocket launch
cool.
out there in California, X's rocket launches. They're so pretty. They have the prettiest vibrant blue. You can't see it because of the light, but like that's what I'm saying. Like that is far more interesting to me right now than this opening statement. There is nothing interesting there. I can't comment on anything, Jeff. It's like talking about a rock. As a matter of fact, I can talk more about rocks, Jeff. Look, I have a bunch of really cool rocks. Okay, that is how uninterested I am in anything he is saying. He is making me want to go and hit my head. Okay, he is worse than the trolls that invade my chat and make me feel like shit. He is like worse than them. Okay, that's all. I don't like this.
Nathan K says, "Who the fuck cares about Lally's opening?" That was the deal. I always like to go back, especially during jury watch, and go, okay, this is what the prosecutor said they were going to prove. What did they prove? What did they not prove? What did they change? What did they forget about? And I like to break that down. And that was the whole point, was to pay attention to carefully to what he's saying. And then I just realized I spent like I have the YouTube studio window open over here, and I've got the StreamYard open over here. I realized I spent a minute just looking at the gap between the two windows. I mean, I was just staring into this gap, and I realized I don't know what the hell he said for the last minute.
Do you think that that's actually what's going on with the jury? Is they're trying to recount like anything the prosecution said? They're like, shit, we need to review the evidence. What did he say? Did he say anything? Like, were you guys paying attention? I wonder if that's what's going on at backstage.
I'm not going to lie. That's happened to me a couple times tonight where I'm like, oh shit, wait, what did he just say?
Right. So like, if we're doing this and we're watching this right now, imagine what the jury is having to deal with. They're like,
right.
I'm almost certain they were sitting in the back room and one person was like, she's guilty. That bitch is for sure guilty. And everybody's like, okay, tell me why. And she's trying to recount in her head anything the prosecution said. And she ends up just recounting what the defense said. And so every time she recounts something that the defense argued, then they're arguing about the defense's story. That was the fatal mistake. I honestly think that with this defense, because you don't need to give these people a story. Let the it's kind of like the Trump and Biden argument or debate, right? Let the man speak. Just let this prosecutor go off and try and present this case. She's not going to be found guilty.
Well, Julie says, I feel like I needed a spreadsheet each time from witnesses and where they said cars were parked at the house. Higgins seemed to say he left around the time they were arriving and had the plow on his Jeep. Yeah, that's kind of what he said. You know, he stayed there for a bit and then left with the plow on his Jeep. Thank you, Julio. And thank you, Buddha Berries, too, who said, I agree with Danny. Felt nervous about leaning on the cover-up. It pushes the jury towards deciding she hit him or cover-up only, as opposed to, if possible, that is anything but her hitting. It's not good. I can see that. You were going to say, Flux?
I don't remember.
All righty, then.
All they have to argue is the defense and whatever the defense said, because nobody's going to remember anything this person has ever said. I doubt that anyone in history will remember this person, to be frank. Like, I don't mean to be mean. I don't mean to be that person tonight.
Vindicated Graham says, Danny on direct. Finally, someone that gets it. I get it, but see, I was looking at it from the idea of he does that, but then it puts the prosecution. He did that in order to put the prosecution on the defense to disprove what they're saying. So
Right.
I don't think Lally goaded him into doing it. I think the defense made the conscious decision to focus on that in order to throw the prosecution off their game.
Totally agree with you, Jeff. I just don't think that it's as effective in this particular case because of this prosecutor.
So let's go. Brandon says he shifted the burden onto himself. That's where I see it. Not that he was goaded into doing it. They made the strategic decision to approach it that way. So I get what you're saying, Graham. Let's move along here.
Now, among those friends was two individuals named Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel, and they were at the residence at 34 Fairview for a good portion. Now, those individuals from the waterfall that leave and then come to 34 Fairview, they do so sometime shortly after midnight. Shortly after midnight is when it starts to snow. Flurries are starting to come down. Snow is starting to stick to some degree to roads, to front lawns, grassy areas around town. Now, from that group, the group that goes back is obviously Brian Albert and Nicole Albert as they live there. Caitlin Albert, because it's her parents and her boyfriend is picking her up, as well as Jennifer McCabe, who is Nicole Albert's sister, and her husband, Matthew. They go back to that, and there's an open invitation to essentially anybody that's there. John O'Keefe takes them up. There's certain text messages and phone conversations between John O'Keefe and Jennifer McCabe as to where this house is located, as he's never been there before. And then he and the defendant drive in the defendant's vehicle to 34 Fairview. And once there are several witnesses from within the home that observe the vehicle parked in. So I mentioned earlier there were two
so much.
The head tilt.
Yeah, the leaning on like dude, you're presenting your
It's a bored
stand
stance.
upright. Yeah. He's bored. And then he went here and then they didn't know where they were. Like, bro. Have something. Like coffee. 5-hour energy, something.
It could be
Nathan
worse.
Kay says, I do believe the jury has someone paid off. No way the case takes this long. Well, remember the Rittenhouse trial, the jury was out for at least 6 more hours than this. And that was a case that involved a witness saying he didn't shoot me until I pointed a loaded pistol at his head. So you know, it's the equal amounts of duhness, and to me it says that they're taking it seriously and they are looking at all of the evidence. But how it comes to, I hope it comes out right, but I don't think anybody gets paid off. Yeah, that's the jurors getting paid off. It's not that common of a thing.
Didn't there just there was a case out of, where was that, Georgia or Florida or no, Colorado, where jurors were bribed? It was like, what is the heaven?
I don't know.
It involves like 7 defendants, but I'm pretty sure it was out of Colorado, and one of the jurors was dismissed because they were somebody attempted to bribe them. It was a thing recently. It had to do, it's a company that it was a COVID food scam where they said they were feeding people and they were just taking government money, and it was one of those.
I haven't heard of this.
I haven't heard that either, but I do stand correct. Apparently Rittenhouse was 23 hours, not 27. I thought it was 27.
We're longer than Kyle Rittenhouse right now.
Well, they're at 20. They're at 21 now, I think.
I thought we were much further along.
I don't know. We're somewhere around.
I don't know. I honestly,
it's been a while.
Just press go, Jeff. Just press go.
Females that were with Brian Albert Jr. at the house, one of them being Julie Nick.
Plow through.
At some point, she had called her brother, Mr. Ryan, for a ride home. He then gets a ride from his friend, Ricky Antonio, as well as his Mr. Nagel's girlfriend, Heather Max, that's riding in the back of Mr. Antonio's pickup truck. I say that because they arrive at Fairview Road around the same time as the defendant. The defendant is coming in from one direction, the pickup truck with the Nagel brother is coming in from another direction. The pickup truck that the Nagel brothers riding in flashes its lights, signaling the defendant to go. She goes first, they follow in behind, and lo and behold, they end up at the same house. They park the pickup truck somewhere in that right side of the property, facing it from the street in the area of the driveway, and the defendant in her black Lexus SUV parks a little bit further up. Different people from within the pickup and different people from within the house observe that Lexus SUV in one location, pull up a little bit further, and then pull up a little bit further until it's in the area of that fire hydrant, of that flagpole, where Mr. O'Keefe is located the following morning. Now, from their position, I anticipate the testimony that you're going to hear is that Heather Maxon from that pickup truck observes a male passenger and a female operator when the pickup truck operator flashes those lights that the vehicles are facing each other before they pull down. What you'll hear also, I anticipate, from all three of those individuals in the pickup and Julie Nagel, who comes out to the pickup to talk to the brother, is that no one ever exits that vehicle. There are no footprints around that vehicle. There's no damage that they observed to that.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a little different than what he said during closing, which was that they saw the door open and the passenger light come on when the door had opened. He said that's when John O'Keefe got out of the vehicle.
That's not what they testified to either, though.
She testified as they drove by, they saw that there was a man and a woman sitting in the car, I believe is what they said, is what the one person said.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it seems to be a little different. At least it reminds me of being a little different. So, yeah, I'm sorry to do this to you people. We're almost done, but tomorrow will be Monday, while we're doing the jury wait, we'll be doing the defense's opening. So that'll be a little better.
Jeff, what are you doing tomorrow night, by the way? Our time.
Sunday morning, nothing.
You want to do some unexplained stream with me and Flux?
That's up to Flux.
I think we could be down.
Okay.
Hey, tomorrow night.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
Sounds groovy.
Nice.
It's happening.
Vehicle at that time.
Unexpected, unexplained.
I'm sticking really too much at this point. Julie Nagel has a conversation with her brother, decides that she's going to stay at the house longer, so the arrangements for a ride home, and the pickup truck leaves from that point. As they pass by, they observe a female operator matching what I submit as the description of the defendant. From all of those people within that house that evening, none of them at any point in time observed John O'Keefe come into the house. They see the vehicle out front, they see the vehicle pull away, and they just assume that they left and that no one was coming.
But Higgins did kind of drop the ball a little bit and say he saw someone enter the house.
Yeah. Somebody tall with...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone tall and with dark hair. He was forced to admit to. So, yeah, there was that testimony. Oops. How did people in the courtroom not all go comatose during this? I don't know.
We hear testimony from other individuals who were at the house.
Hey, I object to you calling me a potato.
Colin Albert, who is Julie and Christopher Albert's son. He's also the cousin of Brian Albert Jr., who is having people over for his birthday. He's leaving the house around the time that the initial people coming back from the waterfall, which includes the homeowners and Mr. Higgins, are sort of coming into the house. At that point, Colin Albert was leaving. He's getting picked up by...
Isn't that weird, though, that it was... Colin Albert had some friends over to celebrate his birthday, and he left before anyone else that came over for his birthday left.
Was it Colin's birthday? I thought it was the other one. It was the Albert's kids.
Yeah, it was the
birthday.
Albert's kids. Sorry. Never mind. It takes me a while to go back in history. You're correct. It was it was Brian Jr.'s birthday, and Colin was the first to leave. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Lady named Allison McCabe, who was Jennifer and Matthew McCabe's.
I love chat because, like, you know, after I get it sorted out in my brain and everything is good and I've commented correctly, then the 20-second delay kicks in and then chat pounds me in the head again after I've already figured it out and fixed it. And then it's like I beat myself up and then everything gets great and I start feeling good again. And then chat pounds on me again for 20 seconds later.
There's nothing more humbling than a chat.
I know, I already fixed it. You just got to wait 20 seconds to figure it out.
The best is when you get comments from people who are watching your stream and the stream is like 6 hours long and you correct yourself later in the stream, but all they stop watching is at like hour 2 and they're like, you dumbass, didn't you know XYZ thing? And you're like, I know. I know I'm a dumbass.
It's in real time to us, Legal Vices. I know. It's just the 20-second delay. It's like double humbling. Like, oh yeah, I was stupid. All right, now I got it figured out. And then chat piles. I know. God, leave me alone.
Your chat is the best chat, though. I
chat is Mbae.
Yeah, we love your chat. We love my chat, but your chat is particularly very kind.
Ooh, I learned a fun fact today. Michael Lank was the first officer on scene at the Birchmore scene. We're gonna start looking into the Birchmore thing here in a bit. After we get through this, we'll start looking through it.
I was gonna say, also, did you know that Chris Albert killed that guy?
What?
The car thing, yeah.
I didn't realize he killed a guy.
Yep. Death involving vehicle. Torgo the White.
Well, see, I was going to say the ironic part is that he hit a car, killing a guy, and left the scene.
Well, yeah, you know. It's...
ironic? Maybe?
I heard someone say that Karen Reed paid his bail, but...
Oh, my God.
Anywho, that's hopefully not true. That would be weird. Chat loves you and your slowdown, you big Korean ot. Get Godzilla synced.
What's an ot?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up. Okay, hit play. Sorry,
but I do have Godzilla synced.
Nice.
Anyway, let's get through this.
He's also friends with Colin Albert and also cousins of Brian Albert Jr., who's within the home celebrating his birthday. As I mentioned, you'll hear testimony from Matthew McCabe and from Jennifer McCabe in regard to their observations that particular evening, both at the waterfall as well as at the residence on Fairview Road. And then you'll hear testimony in regard to a phone call. A phone call that Jennifer McCabe receives from John O'Keefe's niece at approximately 4:53 in the morning. She answers that phone call, speaks to the niece briefly, and the niece hands the phone over to the defendant.
Wait, so she paid the bail for the dude's DUI that is sitting behind her, drilling nasty holes into the back of her head through the entire trial? Way to go, Paul. You're a good guy.
Now, you'll hear testimony from the niece as well, that about 4:30 in the morning or so, the defendant came into her room in a frantic state, saying that Mr. O'Keefe had not come home the night before. So initially, when the defendant is talking to Ms. McCabe, she indicates to Ms. McCabe that the last time she saw Mr. O'Keefe was at the waterfall. Eventually, as Ms. McCabe is waking up, she reminds the defendant that she not only saw them leave the waterfall around the same time as herself, but also saw the vehicle, the defendant's vehicle, outside of the home on Fairview Road. Eventually, the defendant, while driving around, this will come in as far as other testimony and related testimony as it develops. But she's driving around in that morning. She's calling a number of different people, friends of Mr. O'Keefe. She's calling Mr. O'Keefe himself.
Wait, is this what he's claiming happened after 5 a.m.? So she wakes up, she leaves the house at 5.
No, this is when she went to look for him because he didn't come home.
Okay.
So she's out there at 5 a.m. looking for him.
Roberts. So Terry Roberts receives a call about 5 a.m. from the defendant indicating that Mr. O'Keefe did not come home, indicating that he got hit by a plow or that he must be dead. Ms. Roberts then gets ready. Mr. McCabe is getting ready as well, sort of planning to go out and look for Mr. O'Keefe to see if they can locate him. They call numerous times. You can see that within the text messages and the phone extractions from a variety of people's different phones throughout the course of this trial as well. So eventually the defendant comes to Ms. McCabe's home, indicates at some point prior to that she has a crack.
He just sighed in the middle of his own opening. And eventually she comes home. And he just sighed in his own opening statement. Nice, dude.
Himself.
Throughout the course of this trial.
Jeff.
Yes.
So eventually,
I now know what his delivery reminds me of.
What?
That 7 or like that 12-year-old little boy who's forced up on the podium to give a talk at church with his mom and dad like bearing into his soul behind him. So he's like, and then Jesus said to love one another. And he's like reading his talk the whole time. Yeah.
He would greatly benefit from an acting class or two, or maybe a public speaking course.
Yeah, or both.
He's
Both.
Like
just
a heavy
forced.
dose of both.
He's being
Listen-
forced.
Listen to him sigh in his own
Look
statement.
at that face.
Back it up. Back it up. I want to hear the sigh again.
But it's coming up right as soon as I click play.
Oh, okay. Okay.
eventually the defendant comes to Ms. McCabe's home, indicates at some point prior to that she has a cracked hip. Ms. McCabe then gets in the driver's seat due to the defendant's frantic state. Ms. Roberts is there as well. Ms. Roberts follows Ms. McCabe driving the defendant's vehicle back to Mr. O'Keefe's residence in Meadows Ave, checks on the niece. The defendant then shows both Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe the damage to her right rear taillight, which is essentially missing a number of different pieces from that right rear taillight. They then proceed off to drive and see if they can locate Mr. O'Keefe.
10 more minutes.
The defendant is insistent that they go to that residence on Fairview Road. Again, they're driving down there in the dark, in the snow, in the wind, in the blizzard. As they approach towards that residence, there's one person, so they're seated within the vehicle. This is Ms. Roberts. She's driving. Mrs. McCabe is in the front passenger seat. The defendant is in the rear passenger seat. The defendant is the only one who sees Mr. O'Keefe. He yells and screams at Ms. Roberts to stop. Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, I anticipate, will testify that they did not see Mr. O'Keefe, not only as they were driving past him, but even after they got out of the vehicle until the defendant gets out of the back seat and makes a beeline essentially right over to where Mr. O'Keefe's body is found. Mrs. McCabe then dials 911, and shortly after that is when the officers and McCabe firefighters arrive on scene.
He's like Lily Von Stupp. I'm so tired. Lily Von Stupp.
Oh my
It's a
God.
great movie.
Now, while they're waiting there, at approximately 6:23, 6:24 a.m., during a conversation with the defendant asks Ms. McCabe to look up on her phone how long someone has to be out in the cold to die from hypothermia or something to that effect.
That is a stretch. That is such a stretch.
Flux, you have something to say?
How long to die in cold is a lot different than how long does it take to die from hypothermia exposure or something to that effect. Like, seriously?
Something to that effect, Flux. And she only searched it 3 times.
How long to die?
It twice.
Oh my. How
long? How long until he's done?
Ladybug Lisa says, Jeff, next time you feel yourself zoning out, I sent the wild juror bribe story to your Twitter DM. Okay, cool.
Look up on her phone how long someone has to be out in the cold to die from hypothermia or something to that effect.
Something to that effect.
And you'll hear some dispute as to when that search was made. And you'll hear testimony from 3 different forensic extraction experts, Nicholas Carino, Ms. Jessica Hyde, and Mr. Ian Whitfield. You'll hear about a lot of these things called extraction reports from cell phones. And the extraction reports are done with a program called Zelle. Mr. Whiffen is someone who writes that software for Sullivan. I anticipate you'll hear from each of their testimonies that Google search that was done.
You
on Mr. Davis'
anticipate?
phone was done at the same time frame that she indicates the defendant requested her to do it, and that at 6:23 and 6:24 morning. We'll hear testimony from Ms. Roberts, Ms. McCabe, the firefighters, and the responding Canton police officers about a repeated phraseology that the defendant stated while there, asking again and again in regards to Mr. O'Keefe, is he dead? Is he dead?
Is he dead? Is he? That's a pretty logical and reasonable question to be asking of someone who's been laying in the snow for a long time,
Right?
with head wounds.
Well, she was panicking. I'm sorry, but I say all kinds of dumb shit when I'm not panicking. Can you imagine how I am when I am in a full hysteria?
Yeah, and that was the deal he was trying to make during his closing, that even when they're in the hospital, she keeps asking the doctors, is he dead? Is he dead? That's a reasonable question when they've been working on a guy in a hospital for a good hour or so, and you're not hearing any good news.
Right.
Anyway.
You will also hear testimony, as I indicated, about sort of treatment that she received at the Good Samaritan Medical Center, and that would involve testimony of Miss Daisy Formstep, Miss Catherine Wilford, and the Dr. Gary Fowler. We'll hear testimony from a number of different analysts from the State Police Crime Lab and from some other laboratories as well. Included within that will be Mr. Nicholas Roberts, and Ms. Maureen Hartnett, Mr. Andre Porto, Ms. Ashley Vallier, and Ms. Christina Hannon, those all being from the State Police Lab. You will hear testimony.
See, he just lists a bunch of names. This is so pointless. You're going to hear from Skippy Stevenson, Lisa Pugmire, Jane Doe. They're from the police. What are they going to tell us? Why? I don't care about their names. What are they going to tell us?
Well, their names.
He may as well be reading from a damn phone book.
I was gonna say, it reminds me of that those parts in the Bible when it's just son of 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 son of. Yeah, and it's just all names. It doesn't mean anything. It's just all names. Okay, but what is the point of all this names?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but shout out to the Jews for remembering all of those names and feeling it so important that they include it in their scripture. Good for them. I could not. So good for them.
I love Lisa Pugmire. Is that a real person? Is that a real person's name? I'm not Googling it.
Are you actually Googling it, Jeff? I'm pretty sure she testified. Didn't she testify?
No, I was just making up names.
Oh.
September 21, 2023, this Linnea Pugmire was arrested by Orem police after confronting Mayor David Young in a heated skirmish caught on video.
Oh, real word. Real name.
But that was Leah. That wasn't a Lisa. So apparently there are a few Lisas. I just made up the name there. Anyway, I thought it may have been somebody famous or somebody from a movie that I hadn't heard of before. But anyway, apparently not.
Is that anti-Semitic?
I did.
No, it wasn't. it was
I'm congratulating them. I'm impressed. Okay, I've done my own family history, all right?
Not dissing it.
It's okay. I'm Jewish, and on behalf of my people, we forgive you. It's fine.
Thank you, Flux.
There's nothing to forgive. She was saying good on them for remembering all of these things, for keeping in memory.
I don't know. Stuff. Apparently, I'm an aught now, too.
Yeah.
To an incident which occurred earlier in January, right around New Year's. Mr. O'Keefe, defendant, and the children have been invited with a much larger group, approximately 70 people or so, to spend New Year's in Aruba. This is a trip that was organized by a friend of Mr. O'Keefe's named Laura Sullivan. We'll hear a testimony from her, as well as from her sister, Miss Marietta Sullivan, as well as you'll hear testimony from two children in relation to this. And essentially, day 2 or so of this trip, Marietta Sullivan, the sister of Laura, is walking through the lobby and she runs into Mr. O'Keefe. This is someone she refers to as Godfather, because John O'Keefe is also the godfather of Laura Sullivan's.
John O'Keefe is the godfather.
son. Runs into him in the lobby, gives him a hug, and sort of pointing him in the direction of where she believes he's going into his room. The defendant is in the area. The defendant starts yelling and screaming and swearing at Ms. Sullivan. Ms. Sullivan responds in kind. And essentially, for the most part, the Sullivan sisters see very little of Mr. O'Keefe throughout the remainder of their trip to Aruba. And we also hear testimony from the children that shortly after this, or immediately after this, there is a approximately 20-minute screaming match going on between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant within their hotel room.
A month before this incident happened.
A month before. And I think it's so slimy of him, and I hate him so much for calling those kids. Yeah. That is so slimy, and that is so jacked up, and how dare that, like, bro, that's a low move. Like, how dare you? They've been through enough, and then you're gonna call them to court.
How did the kids' parents die?
Cancer and a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like within a couple months of each other, or like a month of each other.
Yeah, it was a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and so on top of all that, Lally called them to testify.
In the murder of their uncle, you know.
Yeah,
there's a special
and their legal guardian.
For those kind of people.
Yep.
And the kids who know nothing of the events that happened that night. It was totally unnecessary.
Well, and it's appalling to me because even in family law, right? Everybody's like, oh, well, you can ask my son. He'll tell you. And I'm like, no, I can't. Why the hell are you involving your son? Yeah. In family law, notoriously, people want to involve their kids. And you're like, no, we don't involve kids in family law or family disputes. And so he's literally bringing them into a domestic dispute case. That's essentially what it is, because he has no evidence of murder. So he's asking them, well, did they fight? Like, what questions did he ask him? I guarantee you it's, did they fight? Did they fight often? Did they fight in front of you? What were their fights regarding? Well, didn't she hate him? Didn't they say these things? Did she ever say she wanted to kill him? Right? Like, you don't bring kids into adult disputes ever.
Did you hear what the defense did when it was time to cross him?
No.
He apologized that they got called. And I mean, of course they got admonished for that, but they apologized. They're like, sorry, you got called. Or like, sorry that you had to come here.
They shouldn't have been admonished, because it is sad. They shouldn't have been called. It is so traumatic to children. There have been studies that have been done, and they find that exposing children to domestic violence or speaking about domestic disruption and violence in front of the children is almost identical to a child's brain and development. So hearing parents fight and then talking about that to someone and having that be a deciding factor in the outcome of whatever happens in the relationship is extremely traumatic to young children. It's so messed up.
It bothers me so much. Like, dude.
Yeah. Well, Rob Price says, what do you think the chances of Lally having put all this together to try and force a plea deal, and then the defense told Lally to stuff it, you can't prove anything? I don't think that's the case. I just don't think they expected her to fight this the way she has.
I agree.
Charged it quick and efficiently, maybe wanted a plea deal, maybe wanted her to go down. I don't think they're prosecuting just for the specific purpose of getting a plea deal. I think they wanted a conviction through a conviction or a plea deal. They just didn't expect her to fight back this way. That's my gut feeling.
And now I feel like they're just punishing her, because this case should have been dismissed.
And speaking of punishing people, let's get to the last 5 minutes of this.
Now, you'll also hear testimony from the defendant's phone in regard to, from another individual's phone in regard to that Aruba, in regard to text messages of an amorous nature that she had with Mr. Brian Higgins, who was at the waterfall, and also at the residence on 34th Fairview, because he was friends with his homeowner, Brian Albert. But he was also friends with Mr. O'Keefe and had also met the defendant. And throughout the course of those amorous text messages, there's references that the defendant makes to that.
Interesting. Now, Higgins denied being friends with John O'Keefe.
Mm-hmm.
They were acquaintances, I believe, is Authority used.
incident.
A lot
in
of them
Aruba,
were just
as she,
acquaintances.
Purported to be Mr. O'Keefe cheating on her. She insists that he was making out with Marietta Sullivan in that lobby as opposed to her giving him a hug. It makes repeated reference to that within the contents of those text messages as well.
They didn't make any reference to Aruba in the text messages that they read.
I don't
It was
know.
all-
That was a
all the
long
high
time
school.
ago.
It was all the high school. Do you like me? Well, you're interested in me? Do you think I'm hot?
No,
well,
no.
What's your intention?
Oh, that was
You
so
think I'm hot?
cringy.
You think
Yeah.
I'm hot? You're playing
can't-
with me.
Can you handle this? Can you handle me?
Handle this.
Yeah.
And she's just like, come over. And he's like, why you playing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you dumbass.
Yeah.
You dumbass.
Now, you'll hear testimony from a number of different other individuals. Mr. Michael Trotta, who has a supervisory role at Canton Department of Public Works. You'll hear from Mr. Louis Jutras, who has a supervisory role with regard to IT, in regard to certain video that was recovered from the town of Canton, as well as from a temple located along the route that the defendant traveled, both away from Fairview that evening, as well as to Fairview from the waterfall, away from Fairview to Mr. O'Keefe's residence on Meadows. And then later in the morning at 5. Because if you recall, Ms. McCabe, I anticipate, will testify that she receives the call from the defendant about 4:53 in the morning. The defendant then drives around Canton for some perceptible half-hour or so period of time prior to even getting to
some sort of perceptible 30-minute time sort of period. That's a what? That's great. Wait, Cicero, you are not.
Receives the call from the defendant about 4:53 in the morning. The defendant then drives around Canton for some perceptible half-hour or so period of time prior to even getting to Ms. McCabe's. And what I submit the evidence, or what I anticipate the evidence would show, based on sort of the tracking of her phone records, testimony you'll hear from Lieutenant Brian Tulloch of the state police, from these Volti records and RTT accounts, that the defendant, while she's using her phone, is driving in the direction of Fairview Road prior to going to Mrs. McCabe's house, where she meets Mrs. McCabe and Ms. Roberts. Now, again, you'll hear testimony from a number of different troopers who were involved in the investigation. With regard to this case, you'll hear from Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Mechanic of the state police. You'll hear from Lieutenant Brian Tulloch. You'll hear some testimony from Trooper Joseph Paul, who's going to specialize.
Yes. Oh, let's see what he says about what we're going to hear from Trooper Paul.
If we only knew what we knew now back then.
Let's hear what he says about Trooper Paul, Boston's best and brightest, as Jackson referred to him as.
Is Trooper Paul the one with the leaf blower?
No, he's the one who studied forward.
Yeah, he's the active
that's
reconstruction
right,
guy that doesn't know what math is, doesn't know what physics is.
Yes.
Doesn't know what,
Kinematics is the study of forward, and he has an associate's degree, and he's taken 120 hours of classes, bitches.
I recall now. Thank you.
Let's see how he's going to talk him up here.
Lieutenant Brian Tulloch. You'll hear some testimony from Trooper Joseph Paul, who's in a specialized unit within the state police called.
Oh, this is the scene whisperer.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I'm clicking now.
He's in a specialized unit within the state police called CARS for short, but essentially a collision analysis and reconstruction section within the Massachusetts State Police. His examination of the vehicle, his examination of the scene, his examination of specifically some Toyota texture, because Lexus is essentially owned by Toyota or vice versa. So there is some data that he's able to recover from that and back the vehicle up based on its known locations and travel. He cycles, essentially opines, anticipate he'll opine that around 12:45 in the morning, when the vehicle was in front of the residence on Fairview, that for some perceptible period of time, that vehicle travels over 60 feet in reverse at over 20 feet.
All right, go ahead, Flex.
Why does he keep saying he anticipates that this is what's going to happen?
Because he's treating this as though he's proffering his testimony rather than treating this as an opening statement.
Okay. It's terrible.
Because this is how you proffer testimony. You say, It's anticipated that the witness will testify to XYZ thing. It's anticipated that the witness will say XYZ thing. When you're proffering testimony, that's typically what you do. But when you are making an opening statement, you're supposed to say, he will testify to blank. He will say this. He will explain this. That's how you should be saying it. So you're right. You're catching on to something that is a little nuanced, and typically we reserve that for motion hearings and situations where we're not going to necessarily call the witness that day.
Now, this is the part that for me, there is no way I could. I mean, this is one example of one thing that if I heard, there's no way I could find guilty. I could find Karen Reed guilty. He said that Trooper Paul is going to show that sometime around 12:45, she backed up 62.7 feet and ran over John O'Keefe. 12:45 is when he fixed the time of death in his opening statements. And that was all good and fine until one of his own witnesses said that she connected with John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at 12:36 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
A full 9 minutes before this was supposed to have happened. And on a good day in good weather, it takes 6 minutes to drive from Albert's house to O'Keefe's house, which would have meant she had to leave the house, I mean, at least by 12:30. And so he spent a good deal of the time trying everything he could to walk that timeline back to 12:30. So this is a big statement. He'll show you that this is when it happened. It happened at 12:45. And then suddenly that didn't work. So he has to change the time of death. And he has to do a lot of mental gymnastics involving the different times on the 3 internal cell phone battery clocks on the cell phone, and the average radius of the accuracy of the Wi-Fi signals to sort of possibly kind of get it back to around 12:30-ish. And then we have John O'Keefe. You see, this thing is John's phone stopped logging steps at 12:32. So I think it was 12:34 they did. But anyway, a lot of things contradicted this.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because they said his phone stopped at this time, and then they spend approximately 8 minutes out having this discussion before she ran over him, and that 8 minutes goes away later. I couldn't with this one. That the one thing he was confident about in his opening statements was the time of death.
Approximately 24.2 miles per hour. Now, you'll hear testimony, as I said, from a number of different troopers, as well as from a number of different analysts from different labs. Included within that is Ms. Maureen Hartnett, who collected items from the vehicle, the defendant's vehicle, including the taillights, sort of housing from that vehicle, pieces of the taillight that were discovered in sort of front grass, front street area. There is a specialized team called the CERT team. You'll hear from Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara, who was a supervisor.
Hang on, I'll be right back.
And then later on that day of the 29th, he, along with Lieutenant Tully and a number of different members from his CERT team, were searching for evidence within the mounds of snow in front of that house, as the blizzard is still ongoing at this point through sort of the afternoon hours. Among the items that they locate is a sneaker. When Mr. O'Keefe is transported to the hospital, he's found to only have one sneaker on his feet. They find the other sneaker in that area of the body. They find various pieces of taillight. And as is wont to do, over the course of the following days, the temperatures rise, rainstorm that comes in, and the snow melts. Over those successive days, there are additional pieces of taillights that are eventually discovered in that area of the front lawn on the street. Now, from these different pieces, Ms. Hartnett also locates a cocktail glass that's located on the bumper or the rear area of that scene, and she locates a human hair on the back of that defendant's vehicle as well. Now, the cocktail glass on the bumper, you'll also see surveillance video from the waterfall, and Mr. O'Keefe is observed on that surveillance video essentially walking out of the waterfall.
Okay, this is another in your damn face dude thing. He's just saying that glass, you see her coming out with a glass from the bar. There was glass on the back bumper when that was the big deal. That was one of the bombshells. The glass on the bumper did not match the glass at the scene.
Then they never explained that.
Nope.
Only that
it wasn't
it was
a match.
Found at the scene and on the car, meaning.
And they're different glass.
Yeah, and it's like, I have no idea.
Julio just says, yeah, it wasn't the same glass, asshole. Right. Exactly. So yeah, the one they found near O'Keefe's body has nothing to do with the glass that was on the back bumper, which makes zero sense. And they just
wait, what?
Yeah.
They did not explain that well in the closing in their closing arguments. I feel
of course not. Well, the defense did. The defense made a big deal about it. Lally just ignored it.
I must have missed that. In my brain, it stuck in that the glass was the same.
No. Yeah, they were different. Yeah, they made Jackson made a pretty big
deal.
How
is that admissible then? If the glasses don't even match, they're not relevant.
So from my understanding is that there was a piece of glass at the scene that matched a piece of glass on the bumper that did not match the glass from the waterfall that was in his hand. So there was a piece of glass at the scene and a piece of glass on the car that matched, but those two pieces that connected did not match the glass there.
So is the theory then that when he was hit, somehow the glass that was already on the vehicle transferred to the scene of the crime?
The theory is Proctor tried to plant glass to connect the vehicle to the scene, but when they analyzed the glass on a cellular level, they realized the glasses didn't match. So now you have this random glass that has no connection to anything other than the scene in the car.
Mm-hmm.
That was my understanding of it.
As Haley Hope says, the glass at the scene matched the glass that only Proctor had access to, according to Jackson.
Huh.
Now the glass from there, the glass he supposedly took out.
See, I would have strongly argued I would have just strongly objected to that being introduced in evidence. Now, Bev probably allowed it in and they had to come up with some sort of argument, but I just feel like that's not a helpful fact for the jury.
Yeah, the way I understood it was there was no glass at the scene that matched the glass on the bumper at all.
Well, then it's irrelevant. Then again, it's irrelevant. Yeah. How the hell did this get in for the jury to hear? It doesn't pass even the sniff test.
Well, it got in for the jury to hear until it came out on cross-examination that it doesn't match. You know, that was a gotcha moment. Julio, same as the Zachariah trial, throw out a ton of garbage evidence to confuse the jury. Yep.
That's exactly what this is. I'm just so okay. Keep going. I'm just so lost.
And also, Island with the $2. Troopa Paw did a whole weekend seminar. Respect it.
Respect my authority.
Exactly. Bumper glass and cocktail glass found in the snow are different on a molecular level. No match. Yeah, there was no matching evidence. Like they were totally different glasses. Well, they put it up as evidence, and then it came back they're different. So oops. And the flipped video. There's so much shit. That's why I thought they would come back with a not guilty verdict the first day. But
I thought it was going to be an hour max. I was like, oh, they need an hour to fill out the paperwork.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 3 hours because, hour for lunch, hour to hang out and an hour for paperwork and let's go home.
Blinded by the lies.
Let's get to the last 2 minutes here.
Middle of the night. Okay, keep going.
We got 2 minutes to get through. Let's power through. We'll put up the intellectually challenged pussy frog up there. Can't say the R word.
I don't have an
and
intellectual.
Mr. O'Keefe
I'm
is observed on that
We're gonna
surveillance
have to
video,
get
essentially
you
walking out of the
I
water
need
hall
one.
with a cocktail glass in his right hand. Same right hand that has minor injuries to it, and the same right hand that's attached to his right arm that has the abrasions and lacerations that are observed by the paramedics, that are observed by the doctors at Good Samaritan, and are observed by the medical examiner as well. We'll hear testimony from another analyst, Christina Hanley, about the forensic consistency between a drinking glass that was in the defendant's bumper and the drinking glass pieces that were found
Or
on
not.
scene at 34 Fairview. You'll hear her testimony in regard to pieces of red and clear plastic. That were
Well, he's
microscopic
not
in
saying that
size,
they're going to
that were found
match,
within
just
Mr.
that
O'Keefe's.
we'll hear her testimony about it. So to be fair, he's
To
being
be
very
fair.
careful with his language here.
Totally consistent, in her opinion. I anticipate she'll testify with the same pieces of plastic contained within the defendant's tail.
Plastic, he
We'll
testified.
hear from an
says
Ashley
something
Valley,
prior to-
who works for the lab as well, and how she fit the various pieces of broken taillight from the scene together and over that taillight housing, finding them to be consistent with each other as well. We'll hear testimony from Andre Porto, who does essentially DNA analyst for the lab, and samples that were DNA samples that were taken from the taillight, from the clothes of Mr. O'Keefe, and the broken drinking glass that were consistent with Mr. O'Keefe.
It still makes me laugh that he said they took DNA samples from Mr. O'Keefe's clothes that are consistent with Mr. O'Keefe's DNA. Really? What are the
way.
fucking odds of that?
How much do
What
you
are
think they paid for that forensic?
What are the odds of Mr. O'Keefe's DNA being on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes?
I would have never
Weird.
expected this.
And on the tail light. Yeah, he didn't mention there was also two unknown people's DNA on the tail light for some reason. Didn't mention
she was
that.
on a roll that night. She was just
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Oh my God. And again, this might just be me being a layperson, being picky with his language, but he keeps saying you're going to hear from Anne, Ashley, so-and-so. And I'm like, why can't you just say we're going to hear from Ashley, so-and-so? Why do you have to say we're going to hear from Anne, Ashley, so-and-so, or a Dr. blankety,
Yeah.
like,
not the Ashley, just Anne Ashley.
exactly. Like, bro, you're trying to tell your story to regular people. Like, stop being so
Lally.
Yes.
Stop being so lally.
We also sent the taillight pieces. Taillight DNA was also sent to the Canton lab, Voting Technologies, located in Northern Virginia. You'll hear from an analyst there, Mr. Nicholas Bradford, indicating that the DNA on the defendant's taillight, in his opinion, is consistent with that of Mr. O'Keefe, and inconsistent with Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan, who were the two preliminary investigators and primary investigators when it came to this case. You'll also hear from this test chart from that Bodie Laboratories in regard to some mitochondrial DNA that she examined in regard to that hair that Ms. Hartnett found on the bumper of the car, in her opinion that it was consistent with that of Mr. O'Keefe as well.
Okay, the hair was not found on the bumper of the car. It was found stuck on the rear quarter panel of the car.
The magic
little
hair.
difference, but you know. Oh God, I think we have less than a minute. I hope we have less than a minute.
The magical hair that definitely didn't transfer from her clothes to the back of the bumper at his house.
Not at all.
Magical hair that definitely wasn't just placed there randomly at the evidence locker during all the skips and the pauses and the,
Exactly.
regular video.
During the flipped video times.
Yeah, no problems. That
It's
never
the
happened.
same thing.
Same difference.
Did they take Biden's speech from last night also and analyze it?
Honestly, I don't even know what that guy said at the end. I didn't even understand what he was saying.
He didn't know what he said either. It's okay.
Lastly, you'll also hear from Dr. Irene Scortibello and Dr. Renee Stonebridge of the Hospital Chief Medical Team in regard to their various examinations. Dr. Stonebridge is a neuropathologist. She essentially examines brain findings.
Did he come up with this in the morning?
As a forensic pathologist who does
Probably.
the sort of autopsy and medical examination of Mr. O'Keefe's body. You'll hear about the variety of sort of injuries that she observed over Mr. O'Keefe's body from him. In particular, you'll hear testimony in regards to lacerations to the right back of his head. You'll hear testimony in regard to an initial sort of skull fracture that occurs to the back of his head, and then sort of a radiating
Magic 8 Ball said
goes,
no.
Throughout his skull, which then leads to a subdural hemorrhage, or essentially bleeding on the brain and then swelling of the brain, which then causes a condition called ecchymosis, which then sort of leads to the swelling of both of Mr. O'Keefe's eyes that was observed by the initial response. You will hear various testimony about sort of issues in regard to his pancreas, how that's indicative of hypertension. Now, again, as I said, this is the first of 2 times that I have an opportunity to address you directly. And I thank you very much for your attention today, and I thank you for the anticipation of your close attention as we go through all of the witnesses and all the evidence in this case. That second time that I do get to address you, what I'll be asking you is based on the evidence. And again, as the board has instructed you, you are the sole arbiters of the facts of this case. You are the ones who find what the facts reiterate that facts and what the evidence.
This is just concluding sentences.
What I submit to you at that time, that second time, is that the only true and just verdict based on that is that the defendant, Karen Reed, is guilty of murder in the 2nd degree, striking the victim, Mr. O'Keefe, with her car, knocking him back onto the ground, striking his head on the ground, causing the bleeding in his brain, swelling, and then leaving him there for several hours.
How did you get the mark on the front of his
temperatures in the teens?
How did you get the mark
swirling around? Snow piling up.
It was
on
from the
top, where
glass.
she comes with Mrs. McCabe and Mrs.
hit his
Roberts,
arm, remember?
just after 6 a.m. And that she is also guilty of vehicular manslaughter, operating under the influence of liquor, and that she is also guilty of leaving the scene after causing death. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lally.
No, thank you, Mr. Lally. You've tortured us here. Wow. Now, ugh. That was worse than I remember. I gave him. I didn't score it on stream, but I gave him a good solid average C during a live. You know, I was thinking I would have given him a C. Boy, but today, again, just the weird way he was wording things. And in retrospect, I wanted to break this down because I thought I remembered him giving a lot more definitive statements about what they're going to show than he actually did. And when you watch it, he just kept saying, "I'm going to call this witness. This witness, you're going to hear from this witness." He made very few comments as to what those witnesses would be saying. And then we had the time of death was wrong and the glasses not matching up. And I would give him a participation D in retrospect. He
stand by my F.
Trophy. Flux.
I stand by my F. He gets an F for extra boring and extra dumb.
Danny?
Yep.
I think that's an E then, right?
E?
E.
Complete?
E because it's just extra boring, extra dumb. I'm astounded. Honestly, it reminds me of the times that I have had to take over a hearing because my colleague wasn't able to make it for like a protective order hearing or something. And I'm reading from the motion. Like he would have been better off drafting this as though it were a motion and then just reading off the paper. Because he read anyway. Like it's not like we have anything to lose by reading off the page. He then spent a good minute flipping through his pages to find the rest of his argument. And I'm like, what? It doesn't even seem real. It seems like how someone would be arguing to themselves in the bathroom, but not in a role play sense, more in just a memorization sense. Like you're trying to memorize the case, memorize your opening statement. So you're just very bland, but then he doesn't actually memorize anything. So this must have been something he drafted this morning, like the morning of, and then came in and recited it. Right?
It sounded worse than that.
It's not well prepared.
No, this is first pass. This is first draft.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like he drafted it, put in some bullet points and some outlines, and it's like, I'll wing it. I know the case. I'm good.
I still like Flux's. It's an outline. He just he read from his outline. Yeah,
that was bad.
That was bad.
That was really bad. Jeff, you give better introductions to me and Flux and all of your guests than he did to his own witnesses.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even give them the specificity of their own names. He said, Anne. So. So he didn't even give them their own stuff. He just named them one.
Some Daniel, some Jeff.
We have Anne Danny on and a so-called Flux, if that's her real name.
Who I anticipate will talk about this.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bothering me. I'm like, so we might not hear. We might, no, maybe. Okay. Be definitive.
I stepped away to take my sleeping meds. Obviously, they were not needed.
Well, let's go. Brandon actually raises an interesting question. Who wants to throw back some cocktails? We're just wrapping this up here in the next couple of minutes, but that puts us over the I just owe an extra shot because it unlocks the second achievement of the day. And this is the first Korean full 100% produced Korean whiskey, Kiwon. It's the first from Korean, planted and raised and harvested barley, first Korean distilled, aged, and bottled whiskey, and it is not good. This is the only way I've been able to get rid of this bottle. I wouldn't. Flux had it in Houston last year.
It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, it was.
What does it taste like?
Bad.
Nail polish remover.
I damaged my nail with nail polish remover for anyone who's interested.
Does
anyone know how long you have to wait before you can gel up again? I don't know.
I don't either. But he puts us over the edge here. So, oh, Lord, have mercy. This is on an empty, it's 2:00 p.m. and it's an empty stomach. I'm hungry. This isn't going to go well. I don't even have any water to wash it. All right, here we go. Cheers. Thanks, guys, for unlocking achievement number 2.
Please tell me we'll watch something mildly entertaining after this. Jeff?
It's really bad.
It's almost like 1 a.m. here.
Yeah, it's time for Flux to go. It's time for Flux to sleep. It's time for me to do some laundry and do some other things. But we're going to wrap this. Oh, God.
The second wave.
Oh, yeah, the second wave. That reflux kind of when you swallow it, then the vapors escape. That was the... We're going to wrap this up. Oh, God. Whew. It gets worse. Is it? Because when you get down in your bottle and it starts to oxygenate a little bit, it usually makes it more mild and a little more mellow, kind of changes the flavor profile. It just makes it worse. Oh, Lord. And but I do owe Brandon 3 shots from last week. We'll probably get to those we'll do those on Monday during jury watch. That'll definitely be Monday.
How did they screw up whiskey? I'm sorry, I'm just confused because it's not like Koreans aren't good at fermenting things and understanding flavor profiles post distillation. Oh, maybe it's that. It's the post distillation.
No, it's just the aging.
Yeah,
it needs to be aged a lot longer. And humidity, location, heat, sun, temperature, the type of it all changes the flavor. That's the problem with whiskey is it's a hit or miss and you have to wait 4 years to even find out if your first batch sucks.
Did you see Island's comment?
They were busy inventing pizza. Absolutely. We all know that's the truth.
Oh, that's the best.
The best.
Uh-oh. Les goes into mood. Pop a stream, MG. We can do cocktails. Give me a few minutes. Well, Everybody might want to go over to MG Law and watch whatever unfolds there. But as for us, we're going to wrap this up, but never fear. At some point, most likely tomorrow evening U.S. time, Flux, Danny, and I will be over on Danny on Direct's channel to do an unexplained stream, where if we're are we sticking with the original plan of haunted and cursed items?
Yes, I want to talk about the Sonichu medallion amongst other things.
Cool. All right. No, it is not a blended. It is not a blended whiskey because there are no other distilleries to blend it with. It's pure Korean single malt whiskey made from I think there's another distillery that just created now, but I don't know if they've released any product yet. I think they have now. But yeah, it's a single malt Korean whiskey. Right. So look on Danny on Direct's channel. Let's. My wife will be back then. Fits the theme. That's funny. Look for the exact time on Danny on Direct. Make sure you subscribe to her and hit all of her notifications so you don't miss our unexplained stream. Probably in 20 hours or so from now. And make sure you get over to House of Flux, the super lay mod.
Lay mod.
We like our lay mod. And me, I'm here. I'll be back on Monday for day 465 of jury watch for this trial. But I'm going to start a little bit early. Normally I start 15 minutes before. We're going to start 30 minutes before. We'll start a little bit early on Monday for reasons that will make themselves clear. You're not going to want to miss it. Yeah, so there we go. Nice. Anything else, peeps, before we shut this thing down?
Today was a good day for America. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
amen.
The Chevron decision, but it's gone.
Oh,
that's
also
total, plus the debates. Yeah.
Also the Sarah Boone decision.
And the Sarah Boone decision.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I was literally just talking about this on my last stream like 2 days ago.
I'm so excited.
I was like, if there's a God out there, I'll know he loves me if she represents herself. I think I said that. It was so sacrilegious. I had to repent afterwards. But apparently he heard my prayer and he made my dreams come true. And I'm just so delighted.
It's going to be terrible, though. I mean, like I said, it's the best and the worst thing that could happen in this trial.
It's the best, Jeff. There's nothing wrong with Sarah Boone representing herself. Okay. I am a smart and intelligent woman, and I need the world to know that I am more than the murderer that they think I am.
Well, I mean, it essentially cements her conviction if she ever, but
it's going to be epic.
It's going to be disrespectful in the way that Grounds was with his trial.
You know what? I'm all for it. I am all for it. I cannot wait to see her self-snitch even before the trial. She's going to do it in a letter to the judge. Yeah, I may have killed him, but that wasn't even my fault. I just can't wait.
No, she's got explanations. Let's. I think MG's got his stream set up now. Let's see if we can go in here into the studio. If we can redirect to him yet or not. Live, and then guys, hang out backstage so we can work out the details of what's happening tomorrow over on Danny on Direct stream. With the unexplained, cursed, and haunted items. No, MG says upcoming random Friday night stream. I guess that's it. All right. That's the one we're sending to. It's set up for 10 minutes from now. Oh, good. They show the time now. That's good. They used to not show the time. All right. That's it. Mods, thank you for being here. People, thank you for all of you joining the impromptu stream. I didn't do it last night because I had a life. I went out and I took the gamble that they weren't going to come back with a verdict. I was worried. They didn't, so I was lucky there. And I just took the gamble, went out and had a great Friday night with some friends, and thought we'd talk about it today. We'll come back on Monday and pick it up 30 minutes before trial. So 8:30 a.m. Eastern time is when we're going to start. Mods, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing your moddy best. I'm going to shut down the like and subscribe poll now, which we've got, 221 people or 337 likes for a Friday evening is pretty damn good. Thanks. 75% of you said that it's going to end in a hung jury, and 25% said no, it will not end in a hung jury. I'm going to be optimistic and say no, it won't end in a hung jury. I'm feeling optimistic by the way they asked for an extra 15 minutes yesterday. Flux, hung jury or no?
I'm calling it hung.
Danny, hung jury or not?
I think they're going to split the baby. She's going to get a lesser charge.
Well, I mean, see, that's what we don't know. They're hung on something. We don't know. Is it the second degree murder? Is it the lowest? Is it somewhere in between? Are they going to come back with a definite decision? Or is it going to be a
hung,
mistrial?
I just want it to be well hung. That's all. Like, hang it well.
Now, make your call. Is she going to get convicted of something, or is it going to be a mistrial because of a hung jury? Or is she going to be acquitted? Is it definitive not guilty or guilty of something, or is it going to be a mistrial due to a hung jury?
Partially guilty of something.
So
I really think
not a hung
that's
jury.
what they're going to do.
So that's not then you say no, it will not be a hung jury.
I don't think it will be a hung
right.
jury.
Okay, that's what we were getting at.
And you can all laugh at me after.
You lawyers.
No, I don't think it's going to be a hung jury either.
You
I don't know how they're
you
gonna
don't.
No.
What
No,
do
it's
you
not
think?
going to be a hung jury. I hope it's an acquittal, but I don't know.
I hope so too.
I mean, we all want the acquittal.
If it's not an acquittal, it better be the absolute lowest of the charges.
I agree.
Absolutely. But on that note, again, mods, thanks. People, the supporters, all the super chats, the monthly memberships, all the gifted memberships, all that super stuff. Thank you so much, guys. It's always appreciated. And for the rest of you that just sit in chat and don't feel able or compelled or feel any freaking reason whatsoever to throw any money at me, not required, not encouraged, not even asked for. You guys just being here is equally as way cool. Thank you so much just for being here in chat, hanging out, keeping us company, keeping us entertained, keeping the mods busy. And Danny, thank you so much for agreeing to join us for tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Flux, is good to see you again, and thank you for agreeing to join.
Always.
And I guess on that note, we'll wrap it up and send you on over to MG Law, who should be starting in about 8 minutes. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Monday on here, but we're going to see you tomorrow over on Danny's channel. Bye, peeps. We'll play you out with the 2-minute version of Framed.
Sing, they're all insane. The fireman's blind, the police are lame. A black padded jacket and a framed up dame cracking out the tail light. Cops are looking for fame. Clap hands. You open the door. Son of a bitch is never coming back here no more. Bud Light in the bar and a Jeep on the street. We can always find a scapegoat here to take all the heat. Clap hands, clap hands. Scream, scream, 100 bad dreams. Everybody's butt dialing in their bed and jeans. A missing shoe and a cop's misplaced hat, and nobody's sure